Chapter 1370. The dead ocean gods were shocked when they saw this, and their expressions changed. Without waiting for the wolf's mouth to close, a pair of giant hands came from beyond the sky and pressed down on the upper jaw, tightly clamping down on that greedy mouth. Only when the thunderous and furious roar resounded throughout the entire balanced world did the dead sea gods realize that the illusion had disappeared. An extremely ferocious and hungry wolf had been smashed onto the horizon's snake bridge by the guardian sovereign of light with all his might. Following the shock of the collapsing bridge, that tenacious giant wolf wanted to flip over and counterattack. However, in the end, the guardian sovereign of light, who had an overwhelming advantage, gave it a kick. Instantly, the giant wolf's entire body fell into the abyss like a meteor. The shock wave from the smash caused the entire abyss to tremble. The horizon snake bridge exploded and turned into millions of pieces that scattered. Rumble. The sound lingered on for a long time. What a good watchdog! Mo Long praised. Although the attack from the giant mouth was ineffective, Hui Tai Lang's ability to do this already made him feel surprised. I almost peed in my pants. Jiet Songxing secretly swallowed his saliva. Just now, he really thought that the entire balanced sky world was going to be swallowed by that wolf's mouth. What the hell is this wolf? Even a world-destroying demon wolf wouldn't be this powerful, right? Wanting to swallow the world at every turn and ignoring all resistance, this was too scary. Idiot. As the owner, Yu Yang was very dissatisfied. When Hui Tai Lang struggled back from the abyss with great difficulty, Yu Yang immediately kicked its butt. I told you to bite his leg and restrain the enemy like how Shao Tianquan pestered Sun Wukong. Why did you open your mouth so wide? If you don't have the ability, don't do such an idiotic thing. If you could swallow that guy in one bite, would you even need to do anything? Even if you could bite him, would you be able to swallow him? You idiot, scram to the side. Seeing that Yu Yang was really angry, Hui Tai Lang hurriedly shook its head and wagged its tail, putting on an "I was wrong, I will definitely cooperate better next time" look. It then gave a look to Duo, who had just flown out of the eternal divine throne. It hoped that she would say a few good words for it. But Duo didn't even look at it, pretending that she didn't know such a stupid friend. Yu Yang got into a fighting stance, pointed at the radiant guardian sovereign and shouted, "Watch carefully, I'll show you how to fix it." Hui Tai Lang felt that if he didn't flatter Yu Yang now, then when would he do it? This was a rare opportunity, so he immediately clapped his hands and tried his best to retract his claws. He stuck out his thumb and raised it up. His big, quick-witted eyes also revealed an expression of worship and admiration, hoping that Yu Yang would be able to forget about the unhappiness he felt just now because of his good performance. Its actions made the mystic dragon, subdued Songxing, and the others feel like this beast is going to defy the heavens. On the surface, the radiant guardian's supremacy seemed to be looking down on everyone. However, he still paid sufficient attention to Yu Yang, who possessed the eternal divine throne and a 10,000-meter divine body. As soon as Yu Yang made his move, he immediately prepared for battle, not giving Yu Yang the slightest chance to fly into a rage. A 40,000-meter tall god body against a 10,000-meter tall god body. What would be the outcome? The Dead Sea Gods Council didn't even need to make any guesses to know that the outcome would definitely be the Radiant Guardian Supremacy's victory. It was impossible for everyone to be an abnormal peerless emperor, and it was also impossible for everyone to use a 10,000-meter tall god body against a 60,000-meter tall god body without being at a disadvantage closer. The two gigantic god bodies approached. 4 arms crossed each other, legs and knees connected. Both sides exerted all their strength to press against the enemy's body. They also used the destruction god force in an attempt to throw the enemy in front of them. The Horizon Snake Bridge couldn't support the battle between them at all. Every step they took shattered the surface of the bridge, trampling through the void. Fortunately, the Libra world had the ancient law. Otherwise, the battle between the two would destroy the entire Libra world. At times, the 40,000-meter-tall god body would press down on Yu Yang's god body. At other times, Yu Yang's god body would push the enemy away. Most of the time, the two gigantic god bodies were equally matched. In this kind of close combat, all techniques were useless. Only strength was the only way to determine who was stronger. With the powerful support of the god thrones from both sides, the difference in strength was almost negligible. At the very least, the Dead Sea Gods' Council didn't see an overwhelming situation. Now, they suddenly realized a problem. Not everyone was as peerless as Emperor Wushuang. However, this youngster called Titan Yu in front of them was also an abnormal genius. His performance wasn't inferior to his seniors at all. They couldn't understand why Light Guardian Sovereign's 40,000-meter-tall god body couldn't suppress Titan Yu. Could it be that all the fellows from Heaven-Reaching Tower were abnormal? Emperor Wushuang could resist a 60,000-meter-tall god body, and Titan Yu could resist a 40,000-meter-tall god body. Why was this? Why were they able to do such an impossible thing? Could it be that Light Guardian Sovereign and Death Sea Guardian Sovereign were really fat? When the Dead Sea Gods' Council thought of this, they looked at each other in dismay. Soon after, they shook their heads in unison. Impossible! Light Guardian Sovereign and Death Sea Guardian Sovereign were top-notch existences. If they were fat, would there still be a god-level expert in this world? Emperor Wushuang and Titan Yu must have used a secret skill and overdraft their life force to create such an effect. When the Dead Sea Gods' Council thought of this possibility, they were overjoyed. It was impossible to overdraft one's life force for long. It seemed that Emperor Wushuang and Titan Yu were going to lose. The predestined battle was about to decide who was stronger. Too weak, Titan Yu. Is this all you've got? Light Guardian Sovereign had tested Yu Yang again and discovered that his divine power still had the upper hand. He was secretly shocked by Yu Yang's rapid growth, but he was also overjoyed. He couldn't help but mock. With your current strength, you still want to defeat me in 3 hours? Ha, you're undoubtedly an ant shaking a mountain. Come, Titan Yu, what other moves do you have? Use them all. This is already your final resistance. The predestined battle has already begun. Since you're destined to lose, I'll be merciful and give you a chance to struggle. The 40,000-meter-tall god body exerted force to suppress Titan Yu. Although he couldn't do anything to Titan Yu's 10,000-meter-tall god body and couldn't make him fall to the ground, but he already had the upper hand. As Light Guardian Sovereign advanced step by step, Yu Yang's 10,000-meter-tall god body could only exert force to defend. It was almost impossible for him to counterattack. If it wasn't for the Eternal Divine Throne's continuous support, it would indeed be very difficult for Yu Yang to fight against Light Guardian Sovereign. After all, Light Guardian Sovereign was an extremely powerful old ghost that had lived for God knows how many tens of thousands of years. Shut up! Yu Yang's face showed no fear. His 10,000-meter-tall god body retreated to the end of the horizon snake bridge that had just recovered. His back was against the cliff of the abyss. He did his best to resist the enemy's advance. In this terrain, with the support of the Eternal Divine Throne, even if Light Guardian Sovereign was 10 times stronger, he wouldn't be able to continue pushing his god body. Of course, Light Guardian Sovereign knew that it was impossible to kill Yu Yang in a short time. With a 10,000-meter-tall god body and the Eternal Divine Throne, he couldn't kill Yu Yang by himself. But what did it matter? The stalemate was beneficial to him. As long as Emperor Peerless died from overexertion, Death Sea Guardian Sovereign would be able to free up his hands. In the worst-case scenario, Deity's Templar's Supreme Heavenly Chariot would arrive in 3 hours. At that time, everything would be settled. But now, he just had to firmly press the enemy to death at the edge of this cliff. All of you, go and attack that despicable dog and that flower goddess. Light Guardian Sovereign was very dissatisfied with the Dead Sea Gods' Council's inaction. Yes. The Dead Sea God's council all had bitter expressions, but they didn't dare to disobey his orders. They could only lower their heads and agree. They were actually quite unwilling to gang up on Grey Wolf and Duo. That was because both the despicable dog and the flower goddess didn't seem to be easy to deal with. The former could swallow heaven and earth with a single mouth. Although it was unlikely to succeed with Light Guardian Sovereign around, he reckoned that swallowing a god-level expert would be very easy. It was just that they didn't know who would be the unlucky one. As for that flower goddess, she was even more troublesome. This flower goddess, who looked like a harmless little girl, had a kind of terrifying killing intent that no one present could match. The first impression that this flower goddess gave the outside world was that her deterrence was comparable to peak existences like Mo Long and Light Guardian Sovereign. If not for the fact that she hadn't fully matured, who would dare to be her enemy? Even Light Guardian Sovereign wasn't optimistic that the Dead Sea Gods Council would be able to kill Grey Wolf and Duo. His order was to surround and restrain them, and not to completely eliminate the helpers around Yu Yang. Let's go. Everyone, let's go. The child-faced old man with the eroding dragon divine staff quickly took the lead. He knew that there was no other choice. Regardless of which side won, the Dead Sea Gods Council would be completely annihilated. The Deity Temple's supreme heavenly chariot hadn't arrived yet, and the Fate War was still ongoing. The Dead Sea Gods Council had to pay a price. Otherwise, the new Supreme Divine wouldn't mind establishing his might and completely cleansing the balanced scale world. You go. Duo pointed with her slender finger and sent Grey Wolf to fight. Hearing this, Grey Wolf immediately charged forward with his buttocks trembling. He himself was a warmonger. Different from the Dead Sea Gods Council who were forced to fight, not only did he not complain, he was even eager to start his meal. Duo herself flew towards her master, Yu Yang's battlefield. The Dead Sea Gods Council pretended not to see her leaving and acted as if they were blind. Dealing with this despicable dog that deserved a beating was enough of a headache. Why did they have to provoke that flower goddess? Once Duo left, the Dead Sea Gods Council's confidence increased greatly. It wasn't a problem for dozens of gods to surround and attack a despicable dog. They just had to be careful of that glutton's big mouth. As for who would be the despicable dog's last supper, it would depend on who was the most unlucky. Humph, come at me! Seeing Duo coming, Light Guardian Sovereign hurriedly sent out his 8-meter-tall true body to stop her. At the end of the Horizon Snake Bridge, two gods were wrestling. With the support of the gods from both sides, they probably wouldn't be able to determine the winner even if they fought until the end of the world. Light Guardian Sovereign didn't hope that this kind of battle was the only way to end his fate. His true body, grimoire, beasts and laws were the best weapons. From the beginning, he had planned to suppress Titan, use 10,000-meter-tall god body, then use his true body to fight. He could even guess the battle plan of his enemy, Yu Yang. Hence, when Duo came, he had already prepared to summon his grimoire. The holy grimoire, which was comparable to a god's grimoire, appeared and shone brightly. It gushed out. Countless mirrors appeared in the space between heaven and earth. Some were big, some were small, some were round and some were square. Some were beautiful, some were strange. Even in the balanced world, this kind of mirror world created an inconceivable illusion. It was as if Emperor Wu Shuang, Peerless World, and the others had gone to another world. They were clearly only a few kilometers away, but they felt so far away that they were even further away than the stars in the sky. The battle was also isolated. When the shock wave reached the edge of the mirror world, it would be annihilated and disappear without a trace. A god level wearing flowery clothes and a smiley crying mask on its face mysteriously appeared from one of the mirrors. Only half of its body was genderless, and there was a word, mystery, written on its forehead. It stared at Duo and suddenly pulled out an extremely long black scythe that flashed with terrifying brilliance from the mirror in its hand. Whether it was the black scythe god level or the strange god level, their bodies were not fixed and distorted. Especially when it floated above some mirrors, it would elongate its body or enlarge certain parts of its body. It was extremely strange. Be careful. Yu Yang had used the divine orb of fate's wisdom to guide him to break through the lost world once. However, he now understood that the enemy did not go all out the last time. It was only testing him on purpose to find out his trump card. This time, it might not be as easy as last time. Duo took the divine orb of fate and looked at the god of confusion that was slowly floating over the mirror with a serious expression. This is just the beginning, Titan Yu. The guardian of light smiled proudly. More pain and setbacks are waiting for you. Why don't you try and see if you can use your divine weapon War Beast to neutralize the sword of misfortune hanging over your head? Do you really think that I'll let a child like you defeat me? That's ridiculous. There's a saying in the upper realm that goes, there are no honorables who have been knocked down in the sky. Do you understand what that means? There were no honorables who had been knocked down in the sky. In His Majesty's Mirage, the immovable supremacy had said the same thing. Although his tone was not as arrogant as the honorable guardian of light, the honorable immovable was still confident. Even if he was still imprisoned in His Majesty's dream world and could not break free. Chapter 1371. The warriors of Tong Tian Tower were crazily trying to break through. They hoped that through their own efforts, they would be able to help Yu Yang, even if it was just a little. Be careful, be on your guard. The team that was madly charging suddenly stopped. Among them, Shui Tanlang's reaction was the most intense. His expression was exceptionally solemn and his brows were tightly knitted. Suddenly, a strange change occurred in the surrounding environment. The air fluctuated like ripples on the surface of water. There was light coming out from the fluctuation. It was extremely bright. It was simply blinding. The number one guard of the central shrine who had been abused countless times, the giant god Nagato, the captain, once again appeared in front of everyone with an arrogant face. This time, even the good-tempered prince of Tianluo couldn't help but complain. How many times do you want to kill before you really die? Captain, if you are really that awesome, then use your full strength and fight with us. Let us torture you over and over again. Are you addicted? Fatty Hai had tortured the captain many times and felt that he could kill him alone. Hence, he was the first to rush up. Let me do it. This guy likes to explode chrysanthemums, I can satisfy him. Before he could even shout out chrysanthemums, the captain's arms emitted thousands of rays of divine light. Each ray shot out like an arrow. The divine light pierced through the space at an extremely fast speed. Yi Kong and the others who were slightly further away also dodged in a sorry state. However, it was impossible for Fatty Hai, who was charging towards the enemy, to react in time. In less than a second, Fatty Hai had already been beaten black and blue by the captain's divine light. His huge body fell from the sky with a loud bang, blood splattering all over the ground. The illusions that you encountered before were all illusions created by the immovable Ji Zun. He deliberately cooperated with the East to stall for time. Do you really think that you can win against a god? What a joke. It's already the 9th day, and you haven't even completed 1,000th of the breakthrough. Of course, with your intelligence, you will never be able to break the East's chess game. Pitiful pawns, on the last day of your lives, in the last few hours, I will make an exception and grant you death, lest you die in vain. The captain looked at Yi Kong and Shui Tan Lang condescendingly and hooked his finger. Come at me together. I can finish off all of you dregs in a second. Other than Titan Yu, who has the support of the Conqueror Queen, you little bugs don't even have the qualifications to be my opponent. Motherf *Ker. Yi Kong's expression changed greatly. This captain in front of him. The image was the same. But compared to his previous performance, the difference in strength was like heaven and earth. It seemed that the more one climbed the mountain, the more they would meet the tiger. They had defeated a few illusions, and this original body felt humiliated, so it really came to settle the score. Xue Tan Lang made a hand signal to Prince of Tianluo, and the two of them dodged, one on the left and one on the right. They had great teamwork and attacked the arrogant divine level ranker, captain, at the same time. The moment he succeeded, Yi Kong's pupils dilated to twice their original size, because he realized that the captain's godly body had disappeared like smoke. The captain's reaction and speed were 1,000 times faster than before. Moreover, what was even more terrifying was that the captain's real body had actually appeared behind him without a sound. Heaven Realm Hellgate. The captain instantly disappeared, and Xue Tan Lang and Prince of Tianluo's attacks both missed. When they turned around, they realized that there was a strange black gate in the sky that was opening. Tens of thousands of shadows that looked like the captain shot out and dived towards Yi Kong and the others like a meteor shower. Unfortunately, they did not realize that the captain's real body was already standing behind Yi Kong. Be careful above your head. The Li brothers panicked. No, it should be underground. A ray of light flashed in Yi Kong's eyes. He could feel that on the ground, there were countless transparent shadows of the captain rushing out from the transparent gate, resonating with the shadows in the sky. On the surface, this attack was aimed at the sky, but 90% of its true power was hidden underground. His shout could not change the situation of the battlefield at all. Even Xue Tan Lang and Prince of Tianluo were instantly hit. On the entire battlefield, other than Yi Kong, who defended against the attack from underground and used his inherent skill to forcibly stand, the rest of the people had all fallen to the ground. The captain looked at Yi Kong with slight surprise. This person was the only exception on the battlefield. He was also the only variable. In terms of potential, this brat should not be comparable to that ice-cold brat. At most, he would be the second or third brother. However, his tenacious survival ability was actually the best in the whole team. Even though he was heavily injured by the captain's hellgate and was bathed in blood, he was still able to stand. Just this point alone had far exceeded his expectations. Fortunately, the youngsters in Titan Yu's team did not have enough divine power to support them. Their strength had long been exhausted in the past few days of bitter battles. Just by relying on their hot-bloodedness and unyielding fighting spirit, they wanted to defeat a divine-level ranker? Ha ha, thinking about it, it was really laughable. However, this was also the naive thinking of the lower realm mortals. They thought that with their own hard work, they could defy the heavens and change the situation of the battle. You can say your last words. The captain was extremely arrogant now. He was full of confidence. Although he could not defeat Titan Yu, that was not his problem. Everyone knew that Titan Yu had the terrifying Conquest Queen behind him. However, other than Titan Yu, would the other warriors from the lower realm of Tong Tian Tower be a problem? No matter how many came, they would all be destroyed. After all, ants were originally weak existences. I didn't want to borrow it at first. Yi Kong sighed lightly. What? The captain completely did not understand what Yi Kong meant. Death was at hand. What nonsense was he spouting? Could it be that he had gone crazy from fear? I wonder how many years it will take to repay it. Xue Tan Lang also coolly crawled up from the ground. His body was covered in blood and wounds, but this brat's expression was the same as before. It was as if his injuries were on someone else's body. Is this the eternal divine power? It's too strong. Prince of Tianluo stood up and mumbled to himself with his eyes closed. What are you guys talking about? The captain was confused by everything that was happening in front of him. There was no fear. There was no fear of death or whining about how weak they were. On the contrary, there was only a strange sigh. Where did all these messy emotions come from? This was not the expression of a loser or a dying person. Don't you guys have any awareness of being a weakling? Yi Kong's face was expressionless, but his eyes revealed a kind of unshakable steadfastness. I understand now. He has his reasons for doing this. We are indeed not a match for a god tier, even the weakest of them. However, we will not give up. We will continue to work hard and catch up. We will definitely not let him fight alone. The Lee brothers nodded at the same time. That's right, we are teammates. Fatty High, who was the last to crawl up from the ground with difficulty, ran towards the wind-breath seabird. His bloodied face showed a smile. Are you all right? Stay further away from me. Don't get too close, I feel suffocated just by looking at you. The wind-breath seabird was scared half to death by him. It hurriedly retreated 10 meters away and waved its hands. Please, don't smile anymore. Your bloody smile almost made me vomit. Wah, it's really disgusting. Don't come any closer, otherwise I will kill myself. Don't force me, please don't force me, I'm really in pain. Don't be afraid, baby. I understand you very well. I will give you time to adapt. Fatty High expressed that he was a very considerate person. The wind-breath seabird suddenly wanted to die. How could it be related to this kind of person? This kind of life was too sad. The captain's arms flashed with divine light again. Thousands of divine light rays shot out like arrows. Once again they shot out. Standing in the rain of arrows, Fatty High, who had been instantly knocked down previously, stood tall like a mountain of flesh. Even though there were wounds all over his body and blood spurted out like a fountain, he stood firmly on the ground this time. His blood-red eyes were like those of a wild beast as he stared fixedly at the captain. That kind of ferocious vigor made even the divine-level captain feel an indescribable chill in his heart. Not only Fatty High but everyone, including Shui Tan Lang, Prince of Tian Luo and the others, had this kind of terrifying killing intent in their eyes. Is this the struggle of an ant? The captain was furious. As a god-ranked ranker, how could he be intimidated by a mortal from the lower realm? What was going on? I, Yi Kong, am willing to accept the blessing of the power of destiny. I am even more willing to fight for the destiny of the holy supreme warrior in the future. Yi Kong pressed his right hand lightly and solemnly on his chest. Yes, we are equally willing. Just like Yi Kong, Shui Tan Lang, Prince of Tian Luo, Lee brothers, Fatty High and the wind-breath seabird all did the same. The captain didn't even have time to speak. He was shocked to discover that there was a kind of boundless divine power surging out from the bodies of these ant-like mortals. It was unstoppable and immeasurable. In the blink of an eye, the divine power flowed through their bodies and spiraled upwards at a high speed. It intertwined with the grimoire's light pillar and erupted upwards at the same time. Could it be that these mortals wanted to condense the legendary divine throne? No, it was impossible. They didn't have these conditions at all. Moreover, they were obviously mortals. Mortals who weren't even god-ranked. How could they have such a supreme thing? Door. The captain was extremely shocked. He stretched out his hand and condensed a divine door in front of him. No matter what happened in front of him, he wasn't willing to stay behind and investigate. Whether these mortals had condensed the divine throne or whether they had the qualifications to condense it, he didn't care. This was because the enemy's strength had completely surpassed and suppressed him. If he stayed here, there would only be one result, and that was death. In order to ensure his survival, in order to ensure his god-ranked strength, he only had one goal now. And that was to leave. Titan Yu, this is what you did for them, right? Very well, go and fight with Dongfang, Zhizun Budong and Deity Palace's Zhizun Tianyu. Your battle has nothing to do with me. Don't expect me to do anything for you. Do you want to use my life and divine power as a stepping stone for you? No, that's impossible. My life and divine power only belong to me. I want to be a free and unfettered god, not a chess piece. Leave, I want to leave this place and return to my wonderful heaven realm. I want to enjoy everything that belongs to me. The captain roared furiously. While Yi Kong, Shui Tan Lang and the others were still receiving and condensing divine power, he impatiently entered the divine door. He didn't want to care about chess pieces or chess games at all. Only his life was the most important thing. Let Titan Yu and Tian Yu fight to the death. That had nothing to do with him. As for whether Tong Tian Tower would rise or fall in the lower realm, it had nothing to do with him. Just as the captain entered the divine door and thought that he was safe, a hand appeared in front of him and grabbed him by the throat. Just like grabbing a little chick, he, a divine level ranker, was lifted up. Yi Kong, Fatty Hai, Shui Tan Lang and Prince of Tian Luo were completely stunned by the scene in front of them. They stared dumbfoundedly as an incomparably handsome man walked out of the divine door with his head held high, carrying the captain in one hand and the divine sword that was still dripping with blood in the other. Perhaps he swept his gaze across the entire place, or perhaps he didn't care about everyone's reaction. This man stabbed the divine sword into the ground and then, using an extremely barbaric yet extremely simple method, he directly twisted the captain's head off his neck. The captain let out an incomparably tragic wail. But it was to no avail. He was a divine level ranker who thought that he was very strong, but in front of this handsome swordsman, he didn't even have the chance to struggle. He could only let out a painful wail before his head was separated from his body and he died. His divine spark dissipated and his divine power was completely absorbed by the other party in a few breaths' time. You, who are you? Even Yi Kong, who had iron courage, was scared to the point that his hair stood on end. This unfamiliar man who had never appeared in his memories, who was he? Why did he kill the captain? And why did he come here? Tell Titan Yu that the debt I owe him is now settled. The handsome swordsman casually threw the captain's corpse on the ground and took out a few human heads, casually throwing them at the feet of Yi Kong and the others. Just like that, after throwing out these words without any rhyme or reason, he slowly pulled out the divine sword and casually slashed through the void. He strode into the void and instantly disappeared without a trace. Who was this person? What exactly did he mean by those words? How could he enter the eastern world of Go and enter this ever-changing space-time labyrinth? Yi Kong turned to look at Fatty Hai, but Fatty Hai was even more confused than a muddle-headed person. He shook his head like a rattled drum, expressing that he didn't understand at all. This face. Prince Tian Luo carefully looked at the severed head that had rolled to his feet and suddenly cried out involuntarily, Look at this face. Don't tell me this is Ji Wu Ri's head? Heavens, this is too inconceivable. Ji Wuri is actually dead, and his head is right under my feet. I'm not dreaming, am I? From the looks of it, it really looks like that Ji Wuri without his penis. Fatty Hai was extremely excited when he heard this, and hurriedly squeezed in to watch. If this is Ji Wuri, then the person who killed Ji Wuri. Yi Kong's heart trembled. Kai Tian Demon Venerable. Shui Tan Lang immediately reacted. That person just now was Kai Tian Demon Venerable. He killed Ji Wuri to return the favor. Only he had the possibility to kill Ji Wuri. However, didn't Kai Tian Demon Venerable just break free from the trial grimoire? His movements are too fast. It can't be. Is Kai Tian Demon Venerable really that powerful? This time, even the usually calmly brothers cried out in surprise. Kai Tian Demon Venerable being powerful is a good thing. Only Fatty Hai, this heartless fellow, would think this way. Shut up. The wind-breath seabird felt that even now, its heartbeat was still very fast. It was almost scared to death by Kai Tian Demon Venerable's appearance just now. In the future, it would never mention such a terrifying fellow again. The heaven realm is going to be in chaos. Yi Kong didn't dare to say anything else, but he was absolutely sure of this. Kai Tian Demon Venerable's return, even if one used their toes to think, they would know that he would not have a good ending. If the deity temple's supreme Tian Yu and Yu Yang were defeated in the fated battle, How could the central shrine defend against Kai Tian Demon Venerable's counterattack? Even a god ranked like the captain was instantly killed on the spot. In the heaven realm, how many people could defend against Kai Tian Demon Venerable's divine sword? Tong Tian Tower's suffering was about to end, but in the heaven realm, the suffering and chaos of war was probably just starting right. Chapter 1372. Times Square. Entrance. Tianyu, the supreme master of the temple, stood quietly with his hands behind his back and his head up to the sky. Standing opposite him, Her Majesty Empress Fei Wenli was the same. Both of them had enough confidence that no matter how the current battle progressed or how it developed, it would not affect their willpower in the slightest. The long confrontation was to find the enemy's flaws, launch a fatal blow, and achieve the ultimate goal of victory. Both of them had extraordinary patience. If necessary, this confrontation could last for 1,000 years. I made a big mistake. Heavenly Chariot, the supreme master of the deity's Templar, suddenly sighed. If I had personally taken action back then, there wouldn't be such a troublesome enemy standing in front of me and blocking my way now. I also made a mistake. Queen Vivian Li sneered, 10,000 years ago, if I hadn't been competitive and fought for the first place in everything, if I had reached out to help Emperor Wu Shuang, you wouldn't even be qualified to stand here and boast today. Tianyu, I won't let you enter the Times Square. Even if I let you in, do you really think you can stay inside? You don't even dare to challenge Night Dream's Fata Morgana, and you still want to be recognized by the Times Square? I don't need the recognition of the Times Square, nor the inheritance inside. Tianyu's tone was very light, not angry at all. I only want to be the Holy Supreme of the Light Realm. In that case, why did you come? Queen Vivian Li sneered. Just to fulfill my wish of the past, to climb to the Holy Supreme, to be perfect and have no regrets in the world. Tianyu replied with a smile. Even a 3-year-old child wouldn't believe this excuse. Even if you go in, it's a waste of effort, but to let a despicable intruder break into the Tower of Babel, the place of honor of the ancestors, is an unforgivable blasphemy. Queen Vivian Li's words were extremely decisive. Tianyu, unless I die here today, you can't step into the Times Square. I know that you are used to playing tricks, so you must have arranged a lot of backups. So, there is no need to hide it anymore, just use it all at once. I never expected you to have a fair and square duel. You are indeed a good opponent. The deity's Templar Supreme Exalt sighed softly. How miraculous. The person who understands me the most in the world is actually my enemy. The contradictions of the world are often like this. This sentence. It was not Queen Vivian Li who said it, but someone else. A kind-looking old man with snow-white hair and beard that reached the ground slowly walked in while holding an ancient book that looked like a scripture. When Queen Vivian Li saw it, she glared at him and couldn't help but shout angrily, "Old man, go back to your starry hall and don't meddle in other people's business. This fated battle is not something you can meddle in." The kind-looking old man shook his head slowly. "Girl, I really don't want to meddle in it, but I have no choice. Trouble comes from the mouth. Who asked me to say such a heinous crime? Now I can't turn back even if I want to. Girl, I have always wanted to do something for you to make up for the guilt of that year, but fate is not in my hands. Now I can only go with the flow. What can I do? What can I do?" Queen Vivian Li was so angry that she laughed. "Isn't it good to go with the flow? It's also in line with your cowardly character." The kind-looking old man didn't get angry, but just sighed softly. The deities Templar Supreme Exalt and Queen Vivian Li were still confronting each other. The old man slowly walked to the side. Sitting cross-legged, holding the ancient book, he read quietly, as if he didn't know that an earth-shattering battle would break out at any time. Maybe he knew everything, but he didn't care about his own life and death. Is there only one old man divine armament? Queen Vivian Li sneered disdainfully. Templar, do you expect his prophecy to bring you victory? Of course not. The deity's Templar Supreme Exalt, who had his hands behind his back, shook his head lightly. Senior Divine Armament came here voluntarily. He was not invited by Templar. At the forefront of the entrance to the Times Square, 3 shadows suddenly appeared. The appearance of these 3 shadows caused the arrogant and confident Serpent Demon Empress to change her expression. She tried her best to suppress her anger and shouted, "Good, this is really good. Congratulations to the great gods of the Heaven Realm. You've actually spent your entire life in prison, and now you've condescended to our Tong Tian Tower, a rural place, to regain your confidence. You're truly welcome." As the 3 shadows heard this, they slightly stopped. Immediately, the shadow in the middle took a big step, his footsteps as heavy as a mountain. "We just want to be free." The shadow on the right also followed. "We have already sincerely repented, but there is no pardon or time limit. That kind of endless prison and punishment is really too unfair to us." The shadow on the left seemed to hesitate for a moment, and finally turned into a sigh. "After this matter, I will imprison myself here for 10,000 years to express my apology. Fei Wenli, if you give up, I am willing to be the arbiter and let you take away the 3 Tong Tian clans. I will not pursue this matter and settle the dispute between the upper and lower realms. You have supreme wisdom, you should know that the current situation is not good. Why be stubborn? Take away the 3 clans, find another place, and pull yourself together. Isn't this also a brand new path to heaven?" Queen Vivian Li laughed loudly. Unparalleled in the world. She raised the divine weapon in her hand and pointed it directly at the enemy, declaring extremely coldly, "My path to heaven will be spread over your corpses." The battle in the Balance World was in full swing, especially the battle between the Guardian of Light and Titan Yu. In this strange mirror world, at first Duo, who held the divine Pearl of Fate, could still follow closely by Yu Yang's side, but soon disappeared. Along with her, the God of Confusion who held the strange sickle also disappeared. The mirror world was the home ground of the God of Confusion, and also the trump card of the Guardian of Light. Yu Yang, under the pursuit of his 8-meter real body, could not even be distracted by Duo. He could only rely on his intuition and keep moving forward. There were thousands of space passageways here. Even Yu Yang, who had the Heaven Eye's divine vision, could not tell which one was the real exit. Or perhaps there was no exit at all. There was only one way: to defeat the Guardian of Light. Come, let's fight. Titan Yu, look at what you look like. What a pitiful coward. The Guardian of Light's 8-meter real body kept chasing after Yu Yang, trying to force him to fight. However, Yu Yang kept running, unwilling to fight in this mirror world where the enemy had the absolute advantage and he was at a disadvantage. This was the enemy's home ground, not a place where he had the advantage. Was he going to fight the enemy here? Even if he wanted to be abused, this was not the way. Yu Yang did not say a word. The mirror world in front of him was ever-changing. There were thousands of changes every second. Countless space passageways appeared and disappeared. Most of them closed or split. No one could figure out what was going on. The scariest thing was that the space-time tunnel inside was filled with mirrors. Some were big, some were small, some were round, some were square, some were still, some were moving. When Yu Yang stepped into it, there were thousands and thousands of Yu Yangs reflected inside. Some of them were as still as a rock, some of them were as fast as horses, and some of them were not alone. They were in pairs, or even in groups, waving their hands at Yu Yang or making funny faces at him. There were all kinds of strange and unfathomable things. Yu Yang could not tell if some of the mirror images were real or not. However, even if they were real, he could be sure that they were the enemy's clones or beasts. If he was not careful, it would be dangerous. Welcome. Come, let's shake hands. Many of the Yu Yangs in the mirror would directly reach out their hands to the real Yu Yang. They seemed to be very friendly. However, most of them were Yu Yangs with all kinds of divine weapons. They attacked ferociously, surrounding and stopping Yu Yang's advance. Break. Yu Yang, who had passed the Hands Palace, Virgo Palace, and the door of life and death, would definitely not be confused by the illusions. He did not care about the guardian of light behind him. He used his divine power to open the way. He attacked as soon as he saw something. He broke through everything. The 8-meter-tall guardian of light chased closely behind Yu Yang. Every time it found an opportunity, it would rain down heavy punches. It was still provoking Yu Yang. Titan Yu, you pitiful little worm, do you think you can escape? In the mirror world, under this deity's divine power and willpower, there are billions of changes. Can you break through them one by one? Don't you understand? You have already been trapped in this deity's world. You are now in this deity's stomach. Even if you escape for another 10,000 years, it will be futile. Come back and fight, this is your only chance. In the eyes of Mo Long and the others, Yu Yang had become infinitely small. Small as a bean, thin as a millet. He was trapped in a huge space with a diameter of more than 10,000 meters, and he kept moving forward. But no matter how hard he tried, he could not move forward in a straight line. Because of the influence of the tunnel and the mirror, he kept going in circles. The only thing that comforted Mo Long and the others was that the circle was getting closer and closer to the periphery. Even though he was still in the core area of the space, he had escaped a big circle compared to the beginning. The mirror in the space kept spinning, the tunnel appeared and disappeared, the reflection was ever-changing. Forget about subjugating Chang Sheng and the others, even Mo Long was confused. It will take at least 2 hours to get out. Mo Long made the boldest and most optimistic estimate. If Yu Yang persevered and didn't make any mistakes, then 2 hours later, he would be able to escape. The problem was, in less than 2 hours, the deity's Templar's heavenly chariot would arrive here. Even if Yu Yang escaped, how could he fight 1 against 2? Quickly think of a way. Mo Long looked at subjugating Chang Sheng and Master Qi Dan. Ah, you want us to think of a way? Subjugating Chang Sheng was shocked. You want us to think of a way? Do you think our brains are as good as the East's? Besides, in this kind of predicament, even if the East came, they might not be able to turn the situation around. Mo Long looked at the two's expressions and scolded, "What are big brains for? You guys are really useless." Subjugating Chang Sheng was speechless. Even you, as the Heaven Realm's fiercest man, are helpless? Don't ask for too much, please, we are just small characters, you can't count on us. Although he was nagging in his heart, he didn't dare to say it out loud. After all, Mo Long's title as the Heaven Realm's fiercest man was not given for nothing. On the other side, the peerless Emperor Wu Shuang, who was carrying the divine mountain on his back, was still moving forward steadily. But every step he took was overdrawing his life force and divine power. The road to heaven seemed to be right in front of him, but everyone knew that he could not reach the end. Chapter 1373. An hour later. Yu Yang had yet to escape from the mirror world, but Emperor Peerless Life had come to an end. Carrying the sacred mountain on his back, he was still some distance away from the Dead Sea. However, this short distance had become an insurmountable chasm in his life. He, who had risked his life to carry the sacred mountain, collapsed at the last 10,000 meters. It was not that he did not want to persevere, but it was simply an impossible task. With a heavily injured body, he had to carry the sacred mountain, which was constantly using the power of the laws to melt his divine power. In front of him, there was also the guardian of the Dead Sea trying his best to stop him. Every step he took was an overdraft of his life. To be able to make it this far, it was already the greatest miracle of his life. The mandate of heaven is not on me, Peerless. With regret, Emperor Peerless lowered his head. His shoulders and spine, which were strong enough to carry the sacred mountain, could no longer support this unbearable weight of life. The sacred mountain fell to the ground. Its edge was only 10,000 meters away from the Dead Sea. The guardian of the Dead Sea, who was resisting with all his might, even retreated into the Dead Sea, his knees submerged. However, all of this had come to an end. The man who had created the greatest miracle had come to an end. He could no longer continue. Stone, if there is a next life, the tree and I will live together and never separate. Emperor Peerless stretched out a giant hand from the bottom of the sacred mountain, as if he wanted to touch the stone statue that had fallen from the top of the sacred mountain. He wanted to touch the flower fairy who had turned into a stone statue after her heart and soul had been exhausted. The stone statue fell to the foot of the sacred mountain, completely broken. The broken stones no longer had their original beautiful form. They were as clean as before. Even at the edge of the Dead Sea, they were as clean as jade and as bright as diamonds. They scattered on the filthy ground without being stained. There seemed to be a wisp of a fragrant soul wrapped around Emperor Peerless' fingers and palm. The corners of Emperor Peerless' lips curled into a faint smile. Slowly, he closed his eyes. He no longer looked at the outside world. At this moment, what enemies, what fate, what victory or defeat, none of them mattered to him. He had returned to the most primitive starting point. There were no worries, no thoughts, everything was empty, there was nothing, there was only the innate innocence, the existence of the first heaven. Seeking benevolence and obtaining benevolence, this is what you desire, right? You knew that you would fail, but you persisted. Emperor Wu Shuang was peerless. You could defeat everyone, but unfortunately, you couldn't defeat your own destiny. Even so, you still want to issue a final challenge, don't you? Yes, you have always been such a proud person. A person like you, even if you are an enemy, is worthy of being remembered and admired by this deity. Since that's the case, let me send you on your final journey. The guardian of the Dead Sea Paragon stretched out his hand. Boundless divine power was about to pour down in torrents when he suddenly stopped. He looked up to the sky and sighed. With a sigh, the peerless Emperor Wu Shuang's entire divine body turned into nothingness, like smoke or dust, disappearing with the wind. Even his soul had returned to the primal chaos. Emperor Peerless would have been long dead without the need to make a move. Everything. The moment the divine mountain on his shoulder fell to the ground, it was already destined to end. Goodbye, my mortal enemy. Goodbye, Skysplit Tower's proudest and most powerful man. With his greatest mortal enemy falling in front of him, the guardian of the Dead Sea Paragon didn't feel happy at all. Instead, he felt an indescribable sadness. Without the greatest opponent in his life, without the enemy that was constantly pressuring his heart and making it hard for him to breathe, this victory didn't bring him relief or excitement. Instead, it brought him a bone-deep loneliness and desolation. After mourning for his powerful enemy, he turned his face away. The guardian of the Dead Sea Paragon instantly regained his composure. He had already completely recovered his might and ruthlessness. He shouted at the Dead Sea gods that were attacking Grey Wolf from afar, "What are you all doing? You can't even take care of a dog, and you still have the face to call yourselves the god race?" His anger scared the Dead Sea gods to the point that they were trembling and bowing their heads. No one dared to look directly at his divine might. Reduce Commoner's Life and Scarlet Danzy nervously looked at the demon dragon. The strongest guardian of the Dead Sea Paragon had already defeated peerless Emperor Wu Shuang and completely escaped from the fate board. What should they do now? The demon dragon closed his eyes and lightly shook his head. He knew that everything was coming to an end. The glimmer of hope that he was looking forward to did not appear in the end. In fact, he already knew that this would be the outcome. However, he still chose to support his brother and chose the side that could not be resisted or won. Perhaps this kind of defeat would become the greatest motivation in Yu Yang's life. It would be another successful start for him in the future. However, he was definitely unable to reverse this battle. He was still too young. He was so young that he thought that he could reverse the entire world with his fists and hard work. After paying a heavy price this time, he would understand and become rational. Then, he would walk towards success step by step. At that time, his future would be unstoppable. But now? He could only be a pitiful little thing that was bullied miserably and powerlessly. Is there no other way? Reduce Commoner's Life looked at the demon dragon unwillingly. Just a little bit more and Titan, you would be able to escape from the mirror world. Was there really no other way? Perhaps there is, but it is not something that we can achieve. The demon dragon was naturally unwilling. If he still had the slightest bit of strength left, if he could still stand up, he would never give up. He would never sit and watch as his brother was bullied and suppressed by others. However, he could no longer stand up. He was only hanging on by a single breath. He didn't even have the strength to move his fingers. Other than watching helplessly, what else could he do? The guardian of the Dead Sea Sovereign didn't even look at the demon dragon. In his eyes, the demon dragon was never an enemy that needed his attention. Although the demon dragon was fierce, he had too many weaknesses. An expert with weaknesses would never be able to reach the honorable realm. Similarly, it was impossible for him to be the opponent of an honorable realm expert. The guardian of the Dead Sea Sovereign only looked at one person. It was Titan Yu who was trapped in the mirror world. Only this young man could make an honorable like him feel threatened. I have to admit that at the same age and under the same conditions, I wouldn't be able to do even a tenth of what you are doing now. Unfortunately, you are too young. You don't have any foundation and you don't have any support. Your defeat was already destined from the start. Please forgive me. It's enough for the Tong Tian Tower to have one peerless Emperor Wu Shuang. I don't want to see another one. I have already bet everything on the battle between the Heavenly Light Realm and the Tong Tian Tower. I have already used up all of the Light God clan. I don't want to go through it a second time. The guardian of the Dead Sea Sovereign stepped forward. He walked towards the mirror world steadily. As long as he made a move, the entire battle would end. Titan Yu would be defeated. He would be defeated by Dongfang's perfect plan and Tianyu's patient calculation. He would be defeated by the guardian of the Light God Sovereign's selfless sacrifice and the guardian of the Dead Sea Sovereign's crazy persistence. He would be defeated by fate. He would be defeated by fate that was already irreversible. After the peerless Emperor Wu Shuang, another super genius that could make the Tong Tian Tower rise was about to fall. If the Conquest Queen on another battlefield died in battle, then the Tong Tian Tower would fall forever. The Soaring Dragon Clan, the Demon Abyss Clan, and the Heaven Stairway Clan would be annihilated in the long river of history. Woof woof! Grey Wolf, who was covered in blood, rushed out from the thousands of attacks. He blocked in front of the mirror world. He opened his huge mouth and roared crazily. This was not the first time he protected his master, but it might be the last time. No matter what, it would never allow the enemy to threaten its master before it fell. The master who gave it everything and shared every minute and second of his life with it amidst their quarrels, laughter, anger, and curses. World-exterminating demon wolf, you are the greatest misfortune and the greatest omen. The guardian of the Dead Sea Sovereign stretched out his hand and easily captured the heavily injured Grey Wolf. He raised him up high. You might have never thought that your birth is the revelation of the Tong Tian Tower's destruction. Grey Wolf's pupils constricted. His battle intent disappeared like a tide. His birth. It was the omen of the Tong Tian Tower's destruction? Was it because of him that his master was in such a predicament today? If that was the case, then was there any meaning for him to live? Without him, his master might still have a chance to live. Grey Wolf lowered his head in frustration. Despair that he had never felt before filled his heart. The entire world lost its color in decadence. His entire life was dim in regret. Fighting was meaningless. Everything was a mistake. Not only fighting, but his birth, growth, and existence, everything was a mistake. How good would it be if he had never existed, if he had never been a scourge like him? Perhaps Master would live a very happy life. Everyone would gather around him, laughing and chatting, enjoying the snacks that Fourth Mother had personally made, while Shuang and the others would run and play around him without a care in the world, their joyful laughter filling the entire garden. Let it end now, as if he had never come to this world. Grey Wolf closed his eyes. Facing the guardian of the Dead Sea Sovereign's giant hand, he no longer chose to struggle. Instead, he chose to end. Go to hell. You should never have been born into this world. Your existence is destined to be a disaster. You are destined to be the beginning of misfortune for others. Return to the primal chaos and sleep forever. That is your only, best, and final destination. The guardian of the Dead Sea Sovereign pressed Grey Wolf heavily onto the ground. The five-colored divine light in his hand gradually enveloped Grey Wolf's body, under the support of the supreme martial artist's law and supreme will. Bit by bit, it devoured him. Phew! The fallen gods of the Dead Sea all heaved a sigh of relief. This despicable dog that could not be killed no matter how they beat him was finally going to die. Without him, without this despicable dog causing trouble, then the entire battle situation would no longer have any unstable factors. This soul-stirring fated battle could also be officially declared a victory. As Grey Wolf's soul was about to be annihilated, his eyes were filled with reluctance. For the last time, he looked at his master, who was still trapped in the mirror world and struggling. If he could still have that legendary next life, then he would just be an ordinary watchdog. Under his feet, lazily gnawing on a bone, he let the little Shuang pull his tail. As long as he could still return to that happy beautiful garden, no matter what he became, no matter how strong or weak, no matter how stupid he was, no matter what, if there was a next time, then he would just be a watchdog. A foolish watchdog. Otherwise, it would be better to never see him again. Goodbye. Goodbye. Chapter 1374. Aya, whose family's puppy is this? So pitiful. Just as the last bit of Grey Wolf's soul flame was about to be extinguished, an incomparably clear voice suddenly rang out. Anyone who heard this voice, even the wildest and dirtiest person in the world, would feel comfortable and pleasing to the ears. An indescribable coolness and purity came from the soul, instantly washing away the filth and impurities in one's mind. The Dead Sea gods were stunned. They looked at the newcomer, not knowing what to do. In front of them, there was a woman in a pink and white robe with large floral embroidered sleeves floating over at some point in time. Her face was covered with a light veil, making it extremely transparent. However, no one could clearly see the face behind it. In a trance, it was like an illusion. At first glance, this woman looked very young. However, upon closer inspection, she seemed to have the maturity and kindness of a parent. The more one looked at her, the more mysterious and bewildered she became. This woman's eyes were so clear and lively that even the Dead Sea gods had never seen them before. They were especially distinct and especially mischievous and moving. It was as if they could speak at any time. If she took a glance at them, even the most vicious person would feel an uncontrollable joy in their heart. It was as if their life was worth it, and they could die without regrets. No one could refuse her arrival. The crowd of gods was intimidated by the Dead Sea Guardian's angry gaze. They tried their best to harden their hearts and barely managed to restrain themselves from taking the initiative to greet her. "You, who are you?" When the Dead Sea Guardian saw this woman, his entire body trembled. He became alert as if he was facing a great enemy. His expression was even more nervous, solemn, and doubtful than when he was fighting Emperor Wu Shuang. He was the only person whose mind was not affected. Even the demon dragon, who was paralyzed on the ground, couldn't help but shout, "No, no, I want to talk to her. This little sister is too likable." The mysterious woman jumped down from a splendid and graceful lotus platform. With a light tap of her jade-like finger, the huge lotus platform turned into a lotus flower that revolved around her body. Together with the other two beautiful flowers that no one could recognize, they revolved around her in a mysterious and wonderful manner while emitting bursts of refreshing fragrance. Where is this? The mysterious woman seemed to be in deep thought. Am I lost again? The Dead Sea gods were speechless. No matter how lost he was, he wouldn't have come to this Libra world. Moreover, there was a divine gate sealed here, isolating the inside from the outside. Even if one was lost, it was impossible to enter. This excuse was too casual. For some reason, a figure flashed, and the mysterious woman suddenly ran into the light barrier of the five-colored divine light. She stretched out her white jade-like hand and gently stroked Grey Wolf's head. Too pitiful, who is your master? You're being bullied to such an extent, why aren't you coming out to do something about it? Puppy, be good, don't be so disheartened. Every life that is born into the world has its own meaning of existence, be it to enjoy sweet happiness or to experience hardship. If you can understand this, then you will truly be in control of your own life. Only then will you know what true happiness is. Grey Wolf's soul that had almost been extinguished. It lit up instantly. Shining, blazing, shaped like the sun. It had never heard of such enlightenment, and it never knew that the birth of every life had its own meaning of existence, even if it was a world-exterminating demon wolf that brought misfortune to all lives. Thinking back, ever since it met that energetic and eccentric youth for the first time, it had always depended on him for survival. From then on, it had accompanied him to the ends of the world, to the corners of the sea. No matter if it was joy or sorrow, it had shared everything with no exception. In life, in battle, they had comprehended life together, and they had advanced together. It was he who had bestowed upon it and made it this world-exterminating demon wolf. Without him, it might still be an ordinary beast. Where would the watchdog come from? Where would the world-exterminating demon wolf come from? Wasn't the encounter between it and its master, as well as the countless life forms arranged by fate? It understood, it completely understood. Awooh! Grey Wolf stood up from the five-colored divine light, raised its head, and let out a long howl. In the howl, its divine beast will and life energy had completely recovered, and even surpassed it. Its soul that had been cleansed grew by millions of times, and its comprehension of wisdom had caused it to undergo a complete evolution. It erupted, and the light of life illuminated the entire balanced world. Under its pressure, all living beings trembled in fear. From this moment on, it had grown into a true world-exterminating demon wolf. World-exterminating law. It was also a true declaration of its birth and establishment. However, Grey Wolf had already understood how to control and dominate this law. It could destroy the target it needed according to its own will, and not be intimidated and misled by others. Once upon a time, Yu Yang had said, "No matter what, do not believe the words of the enemy." Thinking back, Grey Wolf felt an indescribable shame in its heart. In the midst of the bloody battle, when its master was trapped, it had actually been bewitched by the enemy's words and almost resigned itself to death. Really? Looking back, its master was still working hard in the mirror world, and had never given up. Even if the situation was hopeless, he still persevered to the end. Awooh! Grey Wolf discovered that its eyes had never been so moist before. There was a warm liquid overflowing from its cheeks like a fountain. Had it learned to cry? Had it learned to cry like a human? Was this cowardice? No. This was not cowardice, but strength. This was a wonderful form of life venting. Only humans could truly understand and comprehend this power of life. Grey Wolf jumped out of the five-colored divine light and transformed into an incomparably huge world-exterminating demon wolf. It glared at the guardian of the Dead Sea in front of it, its eyes blazing with fighting spirit, like a raging fire. Although it did not speak anymore, it was full of fighting spirit. Come, there would be no more confusion, no more discouragement. As long as it still had a breath left in it, there would be no need to think about passing. protecting its master, protecting that warm courtyard, protecting that beautiful home that made everyone feel happy, and happy was what it, the world-exterminating demon wolf, wanted to do. What it wanted to destroy was not its own home, but the enemy's country, the enemy's world. The destruction that the world-exterminating demon wolf wanted to do was not to destroy misfortune, but to create happiness, and to protect the true meaning of life for eternity. Damn it! The guardian of the Dead Sea realized that not only did this despicable dog not die, but it had also increased by 1,000 times. However, what angered him the most was not Grey Wolf's provocation, but the mysterious woman's disregard for him. She could freely enter and exit the 5-colored divine light. The powerful light barrier could have annihilated everything in the world, but it could not shake her at all. If this mysterious woman had attacked the moment she came in, or assumed a defensive stance to fight, that would have been fine. However, she ignored everything around her, as if she had come to the ruins of an uninhabited civilization. She clicked her tongue and happily admired the balanced world. This kind of disregard was even more unbearable than killing the guardian of the Dead Sea. The seal of the ancient will? Yes, it's very strict and accurate. It's admirable. Is this the divine mountain formed by the legendary seniors? Please accept my worship. I already understand the wishes of the seniors. Your sacrifice will not be in vain. Your inheritance will also be passed down from generation to generation. We, the younger generation, will never forget it. Did a big guy sacrifice himself here? Just now? Yes, I understand your wish. What a gentle big guy. Someone will definitely fulfill your wish. Perhaps the tree and the stone will be the most perfect combination in the world. Is this the Dead Sea? Yes, it's very evil. If you didn't see it with your own eyes, it's impossible to imagine that there's such a dirty place in the world. Malice and resentment have turned into an ocean. It's really terrifying. Strange, someone left a hint on it, but it's not clear. Was it left behind by accident? Or is there a deeper meaning? Okay, I'll go down and take a look. Maybe I can figure it out. The mysterious woman muttered to herself as she looked. The guardian of the Dead Sea's face darkened. As for the fallen gods, they were looking at her inexplicably, listening to her words as if they understood but not really understood. Even the most eccentric of them didn't dare to refute her. All the members of the God clan had the same expression on their faces, which was to watch her fly around in this world of balance and talk to herself. The demonic dragon, Master Scarlet Danzy, and the others were also completely dumbfounded. After a long time, the demonic dragon looked up at the sky and laughed. Interesting, really interesting. The guardian of the Dead Sea roared angrily, "Who are you?" If it weren't for his scruples, he would have already made his move. The mysterious woman in front of him had a realm higher than the peerless Emperor Wu Shuang. Perhaps her divine power was slightly inferior because of the accumulation of time, but she was still not an opponent to be trifled with. The guardian of the Dead Sea was confident that he could defeat the peerless Emperor Wu Shuang. When two tigers fought, he was the tiger with a larger body and stronger strength, so of course, he had the upper hand. However, the mysterious woman wasn't a tiger but a bird. How could they be compared? Are you talking to me? The mysterious woman came back to her senses and floated down in front of the guardian of the Dead Sea. Her bright eyes were full of smiles. I forgot to introduce myself. I'm really sorry. Actually, I'm not an outsider. I'm the child you're bullying and beating up miserably. I'm his mother. Her jade-like finger pointed at Yu Yang, who was desperately trying to break free in the mirror world. Everyone was dumbfounded when she pointed at him. Mother? This kid Titan Yu also had a mother? Titan Yu also has a mother? Didn't he jump out from the cracks of a rock? Subtraction Chong Xing felt that a perverted person like Titan Yu should have jumped out from the cracks of a rock. Now that he suddenly had a mother, this was simply illogical. You idiot, You're the one who jumped out from the rocks. The demon dragon also felt that it was inconceivable, but he was very dissatisfied with Subtraction Chong Shing's stupid words. He had never heard of Yu Yang's mother. At most, he had only heard of the gentle fourth mother who had always taken care of Yu Yang. However, he now had a mother. The demon dragon didn't object. Having a mother was always a good thing. Furthermore, this mother seemed quite nice. Didn't you see the guardian of the Dead Sea breaking out in cold sweat? The only thing that troubled the demon dragon was that he was Yu Yang's big brother while she was his mother. Wasn't he a generation lower than her now? How old was she? It was such a loss for him to be a generation lower than her. No, he had to think of a way to turn things around. Chapter 1375. The Dead Sea Gods were extremely vigilant. The one being beaten up was someone else's son. As a mother, how could she not be angry after seeing her son being bullied like this? Mo Long and Subjugate Chong Xing put their hands on their foreheads. Finally, a strong reinforcement had arrived. Even though she looked like a weak woman, she was able to enter the divine gate without a sound and make the guardian of the Dead Sea so nervous. Naturally, she was not a simple person. At the very least, she was a peerless expert at the level of Emperor Wu Shuang. The dawn of a reversal is right in front of us. Mo Long was so happy that he almost sang. He had been suppressed for far too long. Humph! The Dead Sea Guardian snorted arrogantly. He would not let such a thing happen. No matter what changes or hopes there were, he would personally kill them all. He would not allow any seeds of reversal to be born. The mysterious woman, who called herself Yu Yang's mother, was very calm. She waved her hand. Everyone, don't be nervous. I won't fight with you. Fighting is not the best way to resolve dispute. Hatred and resentment will only hurt each other and deepen each other's pain. Blood and fire will only bring more sorrow and regret. Also, it might be rude to say this. Everyone here is a senior expert. As juniors, we should be respectful. But if I must be frank, none of you are my match, including this fierce uncle in front of us. Even if I am not a battle-type expert, I am not good at fighting. Hearing this, the Dead Sea Guardian's face darkened even more. What did she mean by including this fierce uncle in front of them? He was a dignified sovereign, a super expert that even Emperor Wu Shuang was defeated by, yet he was being ignored like this? What a shame! The Dead Sea Gods looked at each other. They actually did not doubt Yu Yang's mother's words. In fact, they felt that it was very reasonable. With her realm and strength, if she did not surpass everyone present, how could she be so daring? But they could not lower their heads and admit defeat. First, everyone's fate was already linked with the Dead Sea. If they lost, they would all be annihilated. Second, there was an extremely fierce leader in front of them, even fiercer than Mo Long. If they provoked him, they would all be annihilated before they were defeated. The gods secretly looked at the Dead Sea Guardian, hoping that he would give an opinion. Fight or retreat, he could just say it. It was useless to involve them in a high-level battle. Why not we just gang up on that despicable dog? Although it was dangerous, it was the best choice for now. The guardian of the Dead Sea Supremacy's eyes were like lightning as he stared at Yu Yang's mother. His will was as firm as steel, and he completely ignored what she said. There was only one thought in his mind, and that was to find an opening and tear this opponent into pieces. Even if we don't make a move, we should at least rescue Yu Yang, right? The mystic dragon was anxious to death. You didn't make a move because you were afraid that the higher-ups would say that you were bullying others. But now your son was still in someone else's hands. You should save him first and let that brat beat him up. You could just watch from the side. It's okay. It's good for children to go through some hardships. I think he's quite hard-working, so there shouldn't be any problems. I have confidence in him. Yu Yang's mother was very calm. She glanced at her son, who was struggling in the mirror world, and the smile in her bright eyes did not diminish. The little mother's figure flashed, and in an instant, She broke away from the Dead Sea Guardian's divine sense lock. He appeared in front of the demonic dragon. She bent down and asked curiously, "What's wrong with you?" The demonic dragon was sweating profusely. "I was hit by someone from above with a hammer, and my spine was broken, so I can only lie on the ground. Actually, I'm your son's eldest brother, and also his elder." "That's right, that's how it is. Since we're both that brat's elders, then we're of the same generation, right? Furthermore, we're so close, so we're relatives. It shouldn't be a problem for you to help me with a small matter, right? Can you let me stand up? As long as I break free from the godly punishment, I can make a move and rescue your son. I don't mind other people's opinions. If the higher-ups scold me for bullying others, I don't care at all. Besides, if I make a move and beat that guy up, it wouldn't be considered bullying. Your son is being beaten up by that old geezer, and that's called bullying. Get rid of the godly punishment." Yu Yang's mother smiled. "That's easy, just say the word. Then hurry up. I've been holding it in for a long time. My fists are itching, and I can't wait to beat someone up." The demonic dragon was extremely excited. The guardian honorable of the Dead Sea and the fallen gods of the Dead Sea were secretly nervous. Not to mention the addition of Yu Yang's mother, there was also the demonic dragon. The situation was getting more and more troublesome. Everyone's gaze was fixed on them, and they were waiting for Yu Yang's mother to get rid of the godly punishment so that they could launch a sneak attack. The demonic dragon must not be allowed to stand up. He was not as kind as Yu Yang's mother. The title of Heaven's #1 Slayer was not for nothing. Anyone could stand up, but not the demonic dragon. Yu Yang's mother waved her hand. "It's easy to get rid of the godly punishment, but I won't do it." The demonic dragon was dumbfounded. "Why?" Yu Yang's mother smiled. "It's a good thing that you're enduring the godly punishment. The senior who punished you is even more thoughtful. You can't let his good intentions down. You don't know this, but because you've killed too many people, you have too many sins on you. If you continue like this, you will be irredeemable. But for some reason, you've done a lot of good deeds recently, so that senior gave you another chance. He let you suffer the punishment of God in front of everyone in despair and pain, and let you erase the sins on your body. Maybe you don't understand, but this is indeed the best chance for you to turn over a new leaf. You have to cherish it." The demonic dragon even wanted to die now. Even if he was given a chance, even if he wanted to punish him, he should at least find a suitable time. Now that he was in such a desperate situation, he was still doing this? This was going to kill him. Good deeds? He can do good deeds? That's not possible, right? After Jietsong Xing, who was lying on the side, heard this, he felt that Yu Yang's mother's words made sense. However, he couldn't help but doubt the demonic dragon's character. No matter how he looked at it, the demonic dragon didn't seem like a person who would do good deeds. "Recently, I really haven't done any good deeds, but I've done a lot of stupid things." Even the demonic dragon himself was a little doubtful about whether his superiors had made a mistake. Little Yu Yang still needs some time to come out. "You guys wait here. I'll go into the Dead Sea first. There seem to be many mysteries inside. There's also someone who left some inexplicable revelations. What exactly does he mean?" Yu Yang's mother looked like she was pondering. A shadow flashed. Once again, she easily escaped from the guardian of the Dead Sea and arrived at the edge of the Dead Sea. In the terrifying Dead Sea, resentment filled the sky. Blood waves surged. Billions of evil cursed spirits quietly approached. They wanted to devour Yu Yang's mother and turn her into one of their companions. Yu Yang's mother was nowhere to be seen. Step by step, she walked toward the Dead Sea. The smile in her eyes was still there. "You guys must be in pain, right? You must be yearning for release, right? Perhaps I can help all of you with something." Her footsteps were light, and with every step she took, a purified footprint would be left behind on the ground. On this stretch of beach that was pitch black like ink, it gradually formed a row of extremely clear and distinct black and white footprints. The Dead Sea split open in front of everyone's eyes. Under the disbelieving gazes of the fallen gods, the blood waves retreated and opened up a path for her to move forward. And the cursed spirits of the Dead Sea, who were filled with resentment and murderous intent, suddenly burst into tears for no reason. Tears of blood flowed from their eyes. They circled around her and wailed. It was as if they were children who had been separated from their homeland for many years and had finally seen their relatives. Their cries of pain and sorrow resounded throughout the world. Those tears of blood turned into a rain of blood from the sky. They fell. They actually burned on the surface of the Dead Sea like kerosene. Damn it! The guardian supremacy of the Dead Sea roared. The divine prophecy of flattening the sacred mountain and evaporating the Dead Sea flashed through his mind. Emperor Peerless had carried the sacred mountain and failed to fill the sea. He had thought that the prophecy could no longer be realized. But now, as soon as Yu Yang's mother came, she did not do anything. She merely walked toward the Dead Sea, and the wraiths of the Dead Sea wailed. Their tears of blood turned into fire and evaporated the Dead Sea. Could it be that the divine prophecy fell on this Yu Yang's mother and not on Emperor Peerless? Or, could it be that the divine prophecy was completed by the two of them, with each completing half of it? Go to hell. The guardian supremacy of the Dead Sea charged toward Yu Yang's mother furiously. He would not allow his enemy to realize the divine prophecy of reversing the laws of the world and breaking the sacred destiny in front of him. No matter who his enemy was, male or female, strong or weak, he must die. Because of the guardian supremacy of the Dead Sea's anger, the Dead Sea instantly erupted with a huge wave that was tens of thousands of meters tall. The wraiths were terrified. They screamed in all directions. Under the will of the guardian supremacy of the Dead Sea, the blood wave crazily closed in and completely swallowed Yu Yang's mother, who was walking forward step by step. This kind of change was beyond anyone's imagination, and no one knew what to do next. The demonic dragon and the others were dumbfounded. The fallen gods on the opposite side were also speechless. It turned out that the Dead Sea really did have a time of evaporation. However, that kind of battle was not something that people of their level could pay attention to. Let's do something. The temporary leader of the fallen gods, the old man with the dragon erosion staff, glanced at Grey Wolf with some uneasiness. If we don't do anything, then regardless of whether we win or lose, we'll still die. What's your choice? Let's go together and kill that lowly dog. We'll serve the new divine supremacy. The fallen gods secretly complained in their hearts. Since they could not afford to provoke either side, then they would fight with that lowly dog. This was probably the safest move at the moment. This idea was quickly echoed by everyone. Yes, as long as we can kill that lowly dog, it'll be a great contribution. So what if it's a world-annihilating demon wolf? The one we're going to kill is a world-annihilating demon wolf. Grey Wolf opened his mouth. The entire balanced world was in his mouth. He closed it. He nimbly swallowed one of the fallen gods, who was shouting the most fiercely, into his stomach. At this moment, the threat of death stimulated all the fallen gods. Each of them was forced to erupt with 10 or even 100 times their combat power. From the sky, they shot down like meteors piercing through the sun, crazily attacking Grey Wolf. However, the demonic dragon and the others could not be bothered to look at Grey Wolf, because there was a new change in the mirror world. They were so nervous that they were suffocating. They did not even dare to breathe loudly. Chapter 1376. Mirror World. Yu Yang was already on the verge of breaking free. He didn't know if it was the guardian elder of the Dead Sea's warning or the guardian elder of the light's own intuition, but he gave up on the chase that lasted for more than 2 hours and summoned a sun. The power of this sun was already very terrifying. In the mirror world, after being refracted by the billions of mirrors, its power skyrocketed 1,000,000 times. Light and heat, under the law of light, almost swallowed Yu Yang's body. There was nowhere to run now. There was no way out. Yu Yang's whole body was burning, turning into a man of fire, and he was in extreme pain. However, this kind of failure was not completely seen by the demon dragon and the others who were watching the battle from the outside. Yu Yang was indeed burning, his body was indeed melting, but this was only an illusion created by the Gemini mask. There was still the real Yu Yang, who was boldly using the sun to illuminate the entire mirror world, secretly turning into a comet, concealing himself under the overwhelming sunlight, intending to escape the Guardian of Light's divine sense lock. The demon dragon and the others didn't even dare to breathe loudly, deeply afraid that any abnormal movements would alarm the Guardian of Light who was using the full power of the sun. The comet cut through the sky, and when Yu Yang's head came out of the mirror world, the 40,000-meter-tall godly body that was firmly suppressing the opponent immediately discovered this sly deception. It angrily widened its huge eyes, and flames erupted from its eyes. Yu Yang's 10,000-meter-tall godly body and the eternal divine throne immediately counterattacked, using divine power and law to suppress the enemy, not allowing it to come closer. However, the Guardian of Light, whose mind was connected, discovered Yu Yang's escape at the same time. He was furious. He felt a sense of shame like an old cat burning its whiskers. Under his pursuit, under his full power bombardment, this brat actually dared to deceive him with a doppelganger in an attempt to escape from his encirclement. He raised his head and shouted. All the space in the mirror world trembled and swayed, and billions of mirror spaces shattered. In less than half a second, the Guardian of Light's 8-meter-tall body had already appeared behind Yu Yang, and its huge fist smashed towards Yu Yang. Boom, get lost. Yu Yang took a heavy punch head-on. Even though he grimaced in pain from the punch, he still managed to push his shoulder out. Don't even think about succeeding. At this moment, the Guardian of Light was both anxious and enraged. He grabbed onto Yu Yang's legs and pulled him down with all his might. The mystic dragon and the others didn't dare to watch any longer. They were so close, but they still failed. Damn, is fate playing tricks on us like this? Yu Yang extended his right hand. It frantically tried to grab at the space outside, like a drowning person trying to grab at a life-saving straw, but to no avail. The Guardian of Light, on the other hand, was like a water ghost as he pulled with all his might. In the blink of an eye, Yu Yang was pulled down by a large section. Yu Yang's shoulders had been exposed, but now all that was left was a bit of hair on the top of his head. If there is no one else, then Yu Yang's escape would be doomed to fail, and this battle would definitely be delayed until the arrival of the temple's supreme heavenly chariot. But fate is so strange. The failure of Yu Yang's escape didn't mean the end of his life, but the beginning of another battle. A hand grabbed Yu Yang's hair and pulled him out of the mirror world together with the Guardian of Light who was holding onto his legs, like a fisherman holding onto a fishing pole and reeling in his fishing line. This person. It was the Supreme who had returned to the battlefield at some point. Her appearance shocked all the enemies in the balance world. Even the Guardian of Light looked at the brilliant divine throne behind her in disbelief. The sovereign divine throne has been truly mastered. On the battlefield, all enemies, whether dead or alive, will be under my control. The Supreme's current divine throne was 100 times better than before. The light wheel behind her had an extra layer of divine light compared to others. There were thousands of changes in the divine throne, interchanging and mutually destroying each other, endlessly mysterious and endless. How did you achieve this? Yu Yang suddenly understood. This was definitely not achieved by the Supreme alone. It must be the heavenly sword goddess who secretly helped her. Otherwise, she wouldn't be able to come out so quickly, and it would be even more impossible for her to achieve the sovereign divine throne that even he was in awe of. This sovereign divine throne was different from before, which could only absorb the divine power of the enemies who died in battle. It truly possessed unparalleled divine power and laws of nature. It controlled the lives of the entire battlefield. As long as it was the will of the Supreme, all lives that were powerless to resist would be judged by the Supreme, and be under her control. Aya, my hair! Yu Yang was stunned for a long time before he reacted to the pain. He felt that his scalp was almost torn off. He didn't dare to vent his anger on the Supreme, so the Guardian of Light was in big trouble. Damn, how big are you? How heavy are you? You're still holding on to my legs. My head, my hair. The guy from another world was filled with resentment. Although he came out, he didn't know how many strands of hair he would lose after being pulled by the Supreme. The Guardian of Light couldn't care less about these messy things. The first thing he did was to unleash his divine power. He rushed towards Jizun. He was prepared to kill Jizun before dealing with Yu Yang. Yu Yang, who possessed the eternal divine throne and was on the other side of the fated battle, was not easy to kill. His little life had to be taken care of by the deity palace's supreme Tianyu. What he needed to do now was to get rid of the greatest help around him, such as this formidable opponent who had comprehended and possessed the sovereign divine throne. Ridiculous! Jizun caught the Guardian of Light's giant fist with one hand. With a casual flick of her hand, she pulled the enemy's body and skillfully kicked from the side. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The Guardian of Light flew out in front of the Dead Sea God clan's incredulous eyes. He plowed a deep and huge pit on the ground of the Tianping world, and only stopped after flying for 100,000 meters. Yu Yang and Emo Long's jaws dropped to the ground. Wasn't the change in his combat power too great? Wasn't his improvement too fast? Are you sure you're the previous Jizun? Jizun stood proudly in front of the Dead Sea God clan's fearful eyes. Do you think I'm still the same person who needs a child to protect me? Could it be that the child she was talking about was me? Yu Yang was very sad. However, he didn't dare to refute. Jizun was very scary, especially someone who had secretly done bad things to her and had a guilty conscience. What are you still waiting for? Hurry up and destroy his mirror world. Jizun turned around and glared at Yu Yang with her bright eyes. Yu Yang, who was originally like a fierce tiger, suddenly shrank into the shape of a kitten. Mirror world, let's break it. Shui Wuxia and Princess Sisai also came out. The Dead Sea God clan looked at this group of women strangely. They didn't even have a divine throne, but the combat power they possessed was not to be underestimated. Especially the few leaders, their murderous intent even made a group of old ghosts tremble. The most incredible thing was that all of them had a kind of divine seal that was similar to a divine throne. This kind of divine seal. It was also different from the divine emblem that was like a seed. It was a divine power temporarily lent to them in the form of this divine seal by a super strong divine sovereign according to their potential and comprehension. If there was really such a strong divine sovereign who did this, the old ghosts of the Dead Sea Fallen God clan would not doubt this possibility. However, where did the divine sovereign come from in Tong Tian Tower? Where did the help come from? Most importantly, these women all had divine seals that were exactly the same as their own potential. How could it be possible to do this? This was simply impossible to achieve. The old ghosts of the Dead Sea Fallen God clan did not know that they had once shouldered the fate together. Fate had long tied them together with Yu Yang. Completely matched, seamlessly integrated. That was a very normal thing. As for the divine seal, this kind of mysterious and wonderful divine seal was not the divine emblem that Yu Yang had lent them before. Yu Yang also did not recognize it. He did not even know that such a form of existence existed. Yu Yang could only suspect that the creator of these divine seals was similar to the divine throne of sovereigns achieved by the divine sovereigns. It was the work of a super-domineering lady who silently supported him from behind. Yu Yang knew that he did not have the ability to achieve this kind of divine seal. It was even more mysterious and powerful than many divine thrones. The only difference was that it was a temporary creation. It would not affect the master's future growth at all. "Brother, let me help you." Yu Bing, the little sweetheart, was the most eager to fight. She clenched her fists. Being able to help her brother really made her feel excited. "I'm not awake yet. I'm so sleepy." It was the big lazy cat Pandora who was yawning. "Let's go quickly. Duo can't hold on much longer. Idiot, go this way." Princess Sisai punched confused Bao Er's head. She did not know what this cute thing that could only hold them back was doing. Yu Yang opened his mouth again and again, but in the end, he did not dissuade them. The mirror world was very dangerous. Even Duo was trapped in it. Would it really be okay for Bao Er and the others to join the battle inside? But forget it. There was no need to consider Bao Er's battle power. But her luck was very high. It was probably so high that the enemies could not even look up to her. Instead of worrying about her, it was more appropriate not to worry about whether her enemies would cry themselves to death. The guardian dignitary of light did not even look over. He felt that the main enemies were still the dignitary and Titan Yu. As for other helpers, he was not worried at all. As long as Sky Chariot arrived in time, victory would definitely belong to his side. No matter what tricks Titan Yu played, it would not change this outcome. In the mirror world, because the guardian dignitary of light did not care about it, after Shui Wuxia and Princess Sisai led the team in, there were new changes. First, the sun could not hold on any longer. Because the moon above the illusion moon goddess head was rising. Its radiance was not as violent as the sun, but it was as bright as a heart and as clear as a diamond. The eternal moon of destiny could devour all light to strengthen itself. It could also emit a myriad of lights to assist its companions. This was not something that a mere sun could stop. The sun and moon occupied the two ends of the mirror world, forming a miraculous combination of the sun and moon. Slowly, the violent radiance of the sun was absorbed by the moon. Conversion. The originally terrifying sun tilted irreversibly towards the west. Gradually, it seemed to be in danger of falling. This change surprised the guardian dignitary of light. But at this moment, he had no time to care about summoning the divine beast. This was because the dignitary and Yu Yang had already closed in on him from the left and right. They cooperated and attacked together, punches raining down. "How long do we have to wait? This is too troublesome." Pandora was very impatient. She was dissatisfied with the slow suppression of the illusion moon goddess. She rushed forward. She screamed towards the sky. Her eyes flashed with an extremely terrifying radiance. A type of incantation that had never appeared in the world was born under her will. It bared its fangs and brandished its claws to devour that sun. Chapter 1377. The entire mirror world instantly dimmed by half. The sun seemed to have been swallowed by some prehistoric beast. It turned as black as ink, leaving only the halo of the outer shell. There was still a ring of light remaining, which meant that its life had not completely ended. The pitch-black sun fell irreversibly. The guardian of light shouted angrily and frantically supported it with his divine power. But it was to no avail. It fell. The only thing left in the sky was the eternal moon of destiny. The sun had disappeared without a trace. "I'm so tired. I'm going back to sleep." Pandora yawned again, and the terrifying light in her eyes disappeared. What replaced it was pure and lively. Pandora fell into a deep slumber, and Xiaonu took over her body again. Let the Nirvana sunflower devour that sun. Sickly Beauty looked at City Mistress Fallen Flowers. "I don't want to. That sun has already been cursed. What if something goes wrong after devouring it?" City Lord Fallen Flowers treasured her Nirvana sunflower very much. She would rather not level up than take the risk. However, Yu gave her an idea. Why don't you let Lu Yi purify you? It should be successful, but it may take a little longer. Forward, we're going to completely shatter this mirror world. Princess Sisai pointed with her divine sword, and countless mirror spaces exploded under her will. In your dreams, the Guardian of Light was flustered by Yu Yang and Ji Zun's attacks, and his anger erupted like a volcano. However, after suffering dozens of heavy punches from Yu Yang, he had already found the time to summon a tide of summoned beasts in the mirror world. The mirror world could not be broken by anyone. This was the foundation of his battle. It was also the only entrance to the passage of time through which the deity Hall's supreme heavenly chariot had come. No matter what, it could not be lost. As long as they could endure through this, as long as the sky chariot came to the balanced scale world and officially started the sacred fated battle with the Yu Titan, victory would definitely be theirs. Hit me, 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 hit me. All right, now I'll return everything to you with interest. Yu Yang was very happy now. The feeling of having Ji Zun by his side was extremely good. Guardian Ji Zun didn't dare to take Ji Zun's attack head-on and focused on dealing with her. Instead, she didn't guard against him much, which made him feel good. He had beaten up a sovereign, and an old ghost of this level at that. Where else could he find such a day? The mystic dragon, however, had no choice but to discourage him. He raised his voice and reminded, Hey, don't be too cocky. Hurry up and think of a way to kill him, because Tian Yu is almost here. Yu Yang, who was enjoying himself, had forgotten about this. Suddenly, he felt a chilly wind blow by, his back turning cold. The sword of fate, shield, whip, hammer, halberd, staff, and other life-distance divine weapons appeared and smashed towards the Radiance Guardian Sovereign. The Radiance Protection Supreme Being had extremely thick skin and flesh. Even though he was in so much pain that his face was distorted and he was gnashing his teeth in hatred, he still endured it all without any fear. He dodged as much as he could. If he really couldn't, he allowed Yu Yang to attack, but he refused to let Ji Zun hit him again. He knew how powerful Ji Zun was. If she got the chance, she would definitely use all her trump cards. At that time, the consequences would be unimaginable. Under the Dominator Divine Throne, any life that she couldn't defeat would fall into her control. A flaw. Perhaps it would make a big mistake. The Radiance Protection Supreme Being fought with all his might, not letting Ji Zun find any chance. Idiot, give the Fate Divine Weapon to Wu Xia and Qian Qian and let them break the mirror world as soon as possible. Ji Zun chased after the Radiance Protection Supreme Being's real body closely while letting Yu Yang assist Shui Wuxia and the others. Her original 6,000-meter-tall body soared to a height of 10,000 meters after enlightenment and becoming a divine throne. Together with Yu Yang's 10,000-meter-tall body, she attacked the enemy from the left and right. The 40,000-meter-tall giant body retreated step by step under this kind of attack. Now it was almost at the edge of the Dead Sea. Grey Wolf, you stupid dog, why are you still chasing people? Hurry up and come over. Yu Yang was worried about Ji Zun facing the enemy alone, so he ordered Grey Wolf to come over and bring the Fate Divine Weapon to Shui Wuxia and the others. As for the Dead Sea Fallen Gods, they couldn't be bothered with them now. The Dead Sea Fallen Gods, who were being beaten by Grey Wolf until fallen flowers were in a mess, breathed a sigh of relief. Although it would still take some time for them to be completely annihilated, everyone knew that if they continued, they would inevitably be eaten by this bitch one by one. Now that this bitch wanted to leave, they naturally didn't dare to stop her. One by one, they pretended not to see the Radiance Protection Supreme Being's angry eyes and all escaped into the Dead Sea. They even said that they were assisting the Dead Sea Guardian to intercept Yu Yang's mother and prevent her from evaporating the Dead Sea to protect their home. Between life and death, they would certainly make the most beneficial choice for themselves, especially when the enemy was at his most powerful. If they could endure until the more powerful heavenly chariot from the temple arrived, then it would be different. They would definitely make a more reasonable choice again: send the divine weapons to them. If this matter fails, make your own dog meat stew. Yu Yang sent a flying kick at Grey Wolf, who was nodding and bowing. You better be serious. Woof woof. Grey Wolf hurriedly raised his paw and made a military salute to Yu Yang with his most serious posture. The divine beasts will wrapped around the 8 fate divine weapons, like a meteor piercing through the sky. They entered the mirror world. The Radiance Protection Supreme Being was anxious. Without the fate divine weapons, the combat power of those women was enough to give him a headache. Now, with the addition of the 8 fate divine weapons and the fate divine pearl in Little Flower God's hands, the 9 weapons combined might be able to unleash extraordinary power. In order to prevent this possibility from happening, the Radiance Protection Supreme Being endured a kick from Yu Yang. While rolling in the sky, he summoned another capable assistant that he relied on a lot. Light Emissary, time is almost up. Give Heavenly Chariot a target and stop that bitch. The Light Emissary he summoned was an old man with white hair and beard. He wore a gorgeous brocade robe. The light of wisdom in his eyes shone like stars. He looked more like a great sage of the human race. After this Light Emissary came out, he nodded slightly to the Radiance Protection Supreme Being and bowed elegantly. Master, if even I leave, your safety will not be guaranteed. Please take care. I will not be in any danger. Carry out the order. How could the Radiance Protection Supreme Being not know the importance of the Light Emissary to him? But the situation was critical, and it was not the time to cherish his life. In order to win, he was willing to take the risk. He also believed that the temple's heavenly chariot would be able to arrive here before he was defeated and carry out the true fate battle. Yes, the Light Emissary sprinkled out a brilliance that turned the entire Libra world into daylight. His body entered the mirror world. Precisely, he appeared in front of Grey Wolf. To him, there were no secrets in the mirror world. The confusion and obstacles here would never affect him. Instead, they would benefit him. The Light Emissary did not immediately attack the vigilant Grey Wolf. Instead, he smiled politely at him. I like and admire those who are loyal or carry out the meaning of loyalty the most, even if they are enemies. Please wait a moment. We should have a battle that will be engraved in our hearts and passed down through the ages. He opened his palm. In his palm, a ball of light slowly appeared. It was incomparably gentle. This ball of light suddenly expanded infinitely, illuminating the entire mirror world. Such a strange scene gave Grey Wolf a fright. He hurriedly took a few steps back and stared at the enemy with full vigilance. Faintly, an ancient passage that no one had noticed appeared in this kind of light. Moreover, it kept shining inwards. Nonsense, nonsense. Grey Wolf was furious. You are too cunning. I thought you were going to attack. I was waiting for you to come. Who didn't want you to use the light to set up a mark and inform your companions? Even if you want to bully a dog, you can't do this, right? Are you looking down on this dog's intelligence? 2F** King Despicable. Grey Wolf pounced on the Light Emissary. He opened his bloody mouth and bit him. If he didn't eat this despicable guy, he would be letting down his intelligence. The Emissary of Light smiled indifferently. With a wave of his hands, there was a burst of light, and he disappeared into the mirror world. 2 light dogs that looked exactly like Grey Wolf were strangely born. They were transparent like air, and Grey Wolf's big mouth was completely useless. Their counterattacks, however, caused Grey Wolf to be hit again and again, and was injured. The mirror in the mirror world took the opportunity to flip. Countless light dogs jumped out from it and rushed toward Grey Wolf like a tide, instantly drowning him. Stupid beast! The Light Emissary's eyes were full of contempt. No matter how useless it is still stronger than you. A divine sword pierced out from the void, and stopped in front of the light emissary's nose. It was Princess Sisai. She had arrived. It might be hard to say outside, but here, even 100 of you are not my opponent. The light emissary was very confident. His face was pierced by the divine sword, but his expression was still calm. He opened and closed his mouth and said, "In the mirror world, you can never hurt me. You will never even know where my real body is." Humph! Princess Sisai quickly turned the Hell Tiger divine sword and stabbed behind her. There was another light emissary. No one could escape the senses of the 6 records' inherent skill. Even Yu Yang, who had the disguise, inherent skill, was no exception. In this mirror world, the light emissary could move freely and transform at will. However, it didn't mean that he could hide from her senses and sneak attack Princess Sisai. When the light emissary saw the sword piercing his chest, he couldn't help but be stunned. He clapped his hands and praised, "Good sword." Princess Sisai waved her arm to the side again. With a flash of sword light, she stabbed the other side of the void. Then, another light emissary with a sword in his forehead appeared. "If it wasn't me, it would be hard to say. Your sword and murderous aura are too strong. However, it's a pity that in the mirror world, no one can hurt me, the light emissary. Not even a god." "Then let me try." A voice suddenly appeared in the transparent space. Then, there were ripples, like the surface of a calm lake being blown by a breeze, appearing in the space passage of the mirror world. Just like the stroll of the void, Shui Wuxia suddenly appeared in front of Princess Sisai. She indifferently ignored the doppelgangers around her who were seriously injured by the sword. Instead, she nodded gently to Princess Sisai. "Let me try. I'll let you go. I'll go take a look at Duoduo." Princess Sisai sheathed her sword and kicked the light emissary doppelganger in front of her. Her small face was cool. She didn't even turn her head. "Leave." As soon as Grey Wolf emerged from the encirclement of a group of light dogs, he saw Princess Sisai. Princess Sisai stretched out her hand and took the sword of fate that it had spat out. Ignoring the current predicament of this poor watchdog, she split open the void with her sword and left. Those light dogs surged forward again, drowning Grey Wolf. This continued until Grey Wolf was angered. He opened his world-destroying mouth and swallowed not only the sea of dogs, but even the mirror space. Of course, there was a price to be paid for being so gluttonous. Grey Wolf almost choked to death. His face turned blue, and his claws desperately dug at his throat. After a long time, he managed to swallow it. In the end, he coughed non-stop, almost coughing out his lungs. On the other side, Shui Wuxia, who was also full of smiles, completely ignored the light emissary in front of her. When she smiled the most intimate and amiable smile, she moved her fist like thunder and lightning, bombarding a mirror beside her. The face of the light emissary, who kept making funny faces at Shui Wuxia in the mirror, suddenly let out a scream. The mirror did not break. It was safe and sound. But the face inside was broken and exploded. Covering his face in pain, the light emissary escaped 10,000 meters away. Then he suppressed his anger and asked, "How did you know?" "It's just a child's play. Please don't think that other people's intelligence is so low, okay?" Shui Wuxia smiled. "Please don't think that I can't guess that you are another god of confusion. It is rare to see a guardian beast like a twin brother, but it is not impossible. Moreover, you don't know that the truth of the world is in my hands. Please don't play such a stupid trick in front of me, okay? Can you be more normal and fight like the god of confusion and duo? Okay, I can't ask too much of you. After all, you are both guardian beasts and twin brothers. It can become the god of confusion, but you can only be a light emissary. I picked the wrong opponent, that's all I can say. I am not him, but you are dead, definitely dead." The light emissary was completely angered by Shui Wuxia. The anger of an enemy is the best compliment to me. Shui Wuxia shrugged her shoulders gracefully. Wait a minute, can you guys wait for me? A shadow of a hornless dragon flashed across the mirror, but Jiang Ying flew all the way from the mirror's space-time tunnel. She shouted as she flew, Sister Wu Xia, can you let me have this guy? I haven't been able to help him much. I didn't even make it to the big battles. I feel so guilty. Can you? Shui Wuxiao was a little speechless. This was not an enemy that could be defeated with strength. For example, Princess Sisai could not do anything to him. I should be able to. I can't beat the god of confusion that Duo fought, but I want to try this light emissary. Hornless Dragon Jiang Ying thought for a while, and expressed her confidence. The light emissary was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. Even if I am not the god of confusion, I am still the master of this mirror world. Any random Tom, Dick, and Harry can challenge me, the invincible light emissary in the mirror world? Based on what? This is too much. Shui Wuxian nodded in agreement. She reached out and patted Jiang Ying's shoulder. Then do your best. Yes, yes. Hornless Dragon Jiang Ying clenched her fist, full of fighting spirit. I can definitely do it. Chapter 1378. Mirror World. Gradually, it started to explode. Although some of it was restored, the speed was greatly reduced. Many of the destroyed mirror spaces turned into energy turbulence or space whirlpools. There was no way for them to recover. The beast horde became even more frenzied. They ran and chased everywhere, trying to drown all the enemies. They almost filled up every space tunnel. Some of them with special attributes directly passed through the mirror. Some of them lost their rationality and directly rushed into the space whirlpools. They didn't understand the path of life and death at all. There was only the desire to destroy everything in their hearts. Boom, boom, boom. What surprised the demon dragon and the others was that a type of wall appeared in the mirror world. They weren't formed by mirrors, but by transparent crystals. They were formed by simulating the original structure of the mirror world, silently transforming the mirror world. Those frenzied beast tides couldn't recognize them, so they directly crashed into them and ended up with bloody heads. Because of the beast horde's encirclement, the shape of the crystal wall in the mirror became clearer. In a short period of time, it had occupied 1% of the mirror world. It wasn't just one spot. Instead, it was cleverly distributed all over the mirror world. Who made a crystal wall labyrinth here? The demon dragon looked for a long time and still couldn't find who did it. However, he noticed that there was a Statue of Liberty with a veil on her face walking carefully as if she wasn't used to walking. Everyone she blessed had the ability to freely pass through the crystal wall. Even the naughty female elf who was so weak that she probably couldn't even defeat a Temple of God soldier was no exception. Titan Yu's sister is so powerful. Subtraction Common Life was a little speechless. He saw Yu Bing showing off her power and commanding the Titan Ancient Tree to slaughter the beasts that were rushing towards her. That's right, slaughter. No matter what element, no matter what type, no matter if the opponent was made of life energy or not, as long as they got in front of her, there would only be one result. They would be killed instantly. The most terrifying thing was that any summoned beast that got in front of her would be blocked by the protection of the ancient forest, and would be squeezed into a ball. The sky full of thorns entangled all the enemies. Those that were alive were the first to be poisoned to death. Those that were not alive were also sucked dry of their energy and turned into a pile of debris. The few that were not afraid of the poison were killed by a rune half-moon before they could get in front of her. Immortal life, eternal protection. This was the domain concept that Yu Bing had developed. Group attacks were useless against her. The beast horde couldn't do anything to her. That half-moon-shaped runic wheel is a little similar to Yu Yang's world exterminating wheel, just that there are no immemorial runes at the core. Using it to kill summoned beasts is really overkill. The mystic dragon frowned. He felt that Yu Yang's sister had another characteristic that even she did not know about. She was especially good at killing. None of those who were killed by her could survive. There was no exception. Fortunately, the one who controlled this terrifying killing power was a pure and innocent little girl. If it was someone else, it would definitely not be a blessing in this world. The one who was quietly guarding Yu Bing's back and assisting her was Yi Nan, who was sitting on top of the spirit mirror. The mirror world had the least effect on her. Almost. It was negligible. With the spiritual mirror and the spiritual impact, the unintelligent beast horde's soul would be annihilated unknowingly while they were running. There was no pain. Every mirror in the mirror world, as long as Inan reached out and touched it, it would shatter and even turn into a mirror that was under her control. In the mirror world, Inan was like a fish in water. Her battle was even easier than Yu Bing's. Aurora, another person who wasn't affected by the mirror world, was Fallen Flowers. No matter if it was Nirvana Sunflower or 9-spin Spiral Aurora, once they were used, they could be reflected by the mirror world. Their power increased by 1,000 times. Sometimes, even she felt that it was unbelievable. She didn't care about the beast horde at all. What she wanted to do now was to find a way to destroy this mirror world. Lost in my dreams, suddenly sitting up in shock, the mirror sees white, the beauty Chi Mu, surrounded by sickness, her face colorless, the yellow flowers withered. The night wind does not knock on the bead curtain, does Hong Zhuang remember, the children are too lazy to lift me up, the butterflies are dancing happily, a pipa is playing, the phoenix cries. Looking back, the tower is still there, the laughter is still in my ears, but the years have been wasted. The southern demon king played the jade pipa gracefully. As she sang, she walked forward slowly. Everywhere she walked, whether it was the mirror or the spatial tunnel, everything shattered, like the merciless sword of time. Ice and snow paved a long path, thin as tears. In an extremely special and secretive mirror space, the god of chaos and Duo stood opposite each other. They didn't care about anything that happened in the outside world. Between the two of them, only one could survive, and that would be the winner. They had used all means and methods. At this point, the weather, geography, or divine power were no longer important. Only willpower was the key to persevere to the end. Blooming in the wind, colorful, that's the true meaning of life. Duo looked at the pearl of destiny in her hand and sighed. The god of chaos suddenly realized that this flower goddess wanted to perish together with him. Guardian beasts wouldn't die. Doing everything at the same time wouldn't have any meaning. However, if the flower goddess really did it, then the mirror world might not exist anymore. The ancient passage that needed the mirror world to open would be in vain. This flower goddess was probably planning on doing this. Unfortunately, she would never know that there were two guardian beasts in the mirror world. The silent god of confusion unleashed the greatest power and the strongest rule he had ever used in his life. Perish together with the enemy. This was also what he wanted to do the most. As long as the flower goddess fell, then Titan Yu would lose an arm. How could he not do this exchange? Goodbye. A satisfied smile appeared on Duo's face. For him, in order to protect him, she could give up everything, even if it was her life that was hard to come by. Perhaps the fall of the thorny flower is the beginning of the birth of another stupid thorny flower. Maybe one day, he will still be stupid and stuff everything into his mouth. Things are unpredictable, the strong will fall. Even if he doesn't remember the past, that stupid flower will still be happy. She held the pearl of destiny above her head. Millions of divine lights exploded, turned into petals and danced in the sky. In the rain of petals, a huge flower goddess descended. She stood tall and rushed towards the equally huge god of chaos. The two destructive powers collided with each other, and it was like thousands of suns exploding at the same time. The mirror space instantly turned into dust, and not even a single fragment was left. Everything returned to the primal chaos. In the center of the explosion, the flower goddess and the god of confusion's shadows gradually faded. Finally, they disappeared in the sea of light, turned into nothingness. The shock wave produced by this explosion was as terrifying as the Big Bang of the universe. It swept through the entire mirror world. The billions of mirrors and passages in the mirror world evaporated like snow meeting light. Everything disappeared as the shock wave passed. The nearly eternally solid crystal walls were also on the verge of collapse from the shock waves of the explosion. The women who were hiding inside were all crying. They already knew the result of this battle, and they also understood the true meaning behind Duo's sacrifice. She was much earlier than Little One Li, who had the diamond grimoire. Under Yu Yang's command, no one could comprehend divine sense faster than her. She was the first to be born a god, the first to be born a flower goddess. She even turned around and enlightened her master to advance towards a higher god. Before entering the mirror world, the girls already knew her wishes from the petals flying in the sky. Guardian war beasts would not really die, but sacrificing everything to destroy a god. It would make her memory disappear. The one who would regenerate divine sense might not be the original her. Even so, she had no regret. Duo, I won't let you fight alone. Hornless dragon Jiang Ying's cheeks were streaming with tears. In front of her stood an arrogant enemy, the Light Envoy. In the mirror world, he could transform into thousands of clones at will. Any attack would be transferred to the void and all attacks would be ineffective. The Light Envoy was an invincible opponent as long as he had light and mirrors. Is the mirror world really destroyed? That's ridiculous. Don't forget that I also have the mirror world. Light Envoy was embarrassed for a while because of the shockwave from the fight between the two gods, but he quickly regained his confidence. He waved his hand and the space outside the mirror world, far away from the center of the explosion, was restored to the mirror world. Although it was broken and not as good as before, it was enough for him to display his power. Hornless dragon Jiangying was covered in blood. She did not have the upper hand in the battle. She was not Qian or Shuewuxia. Without the 6 records' inherent skill and the truth, it was very difficult for her to fight Light Envoy. Failure. No matter what tricks you have, you are doomed to fail. In the mirror world, I am invincible. If you did not cry cowardly during the explosion and took the opportunity to attack me, you might have had some effect. But now? It's too late. The emissary of light had been very worried just now. Because the mirror world had been blown up, his strength had been greatly reduced. Fortunately, this dragon lady could not help but feel sad because she had sensed the sacrifice of her companion. She had turned the precious opportunity into meaningless and useless tears. Tears are not all cowardly, some are strong. My tears make my heart stronger. Jiang Ying gritted her teeth, wiped away her tears and clenched her fists. Ha ha, if that's the case, then I will make your tears flow like a river. Light Envoy mocked. The one who will cry like a river will only be you. Jiang Ying reached out and pierced her chest, straight into her heart. Then, with a wave of her hand, blood gushed out like a waterfall. With my blood as my oath, I pray to the dragon god to punish me with the laws. Light Envoy was stunned. Self-harm? He could not help but laugh out loud. Do you think you can attack me like this? Blood is useless to me because this is the light and mirror world. Jiang Ying clasped her hands together and solemnly prayed. The blood gushing out of her heart gradually turned into a blood-red execution platform. The emissary of light's laughter was as sharp as a knife, and his face was as stiff as the lava of a volcano. His eyes were cold, and he was about to run away when he suddenly felt a tightness on his arm. He did not know when, but from the blood in the void, 2 golden divine tigers appeared. They were holding divine axes for execution, and their dazzling golden armors almost blinded the emissary of light. The divine light forced him to open his eyes. They stood on the left and right of Light Envoy and grabbed his arms. They forcefully dragged him towards the blood-red execution platform. The Radiant's emissary struggled madly, but to no avail. Under this law of execution, the light and mirror could not exert even the slightest bit of their power. Even a trace of the supreme dragon god's will was heavier than a mountain, pressuring the Radiant's emissary so much that he could not even breathe. "No, impossible, I am much stronger than you. You cannot kill me!" Light Envoy roared crazily. He looked at Jiang Ying and found that the hornless dragon was also on the verge of death. The blood in her heart was almost out and her face was whiter than paper. But she was still determined and firmly clasped her hands together as she prayed. Life and death were completely thrown to the back of her mind. "You can't hold on any longer. Your blood has already been drained. In the next second you will fall. Do you want to kill me? Impossible. I can hold on until the last moment. You have lost, you are destined to fail." Light Envoy was like a dog. He was dragged onto the blood-red execution platform by the two powerful divine tiger halberds and pressed down on the beheading position. The divine axe was raised high. He was still unwilling and continued to shout. In the sky, outside the mirror world, the supreme guardian of light angrily sent out a divine finger. An all-out attack. The light pierced through space. It pierced through Yu Yang's chest and Ah Man's waist and accurately hit hornless dragon Jiang Ying's body. The two divine tiger halberds that were about to chop down stopped. The blood-red execution platform trembled. It collapsed. Light Envoy had narrowly escaped death. He could not help but cry tears of joy. "I said before, I am the winner, I am the true victor. Failure, you are destined to fail. I survived your law of execution. So what if you have inherited the supreme dragon god's will? After all, you are not his daughter. What can you do to me? I won. I won." "Really? I said that I will make your tears flow like a river. This is just the beginning." After the light dissipated, Jiang Ying, who was drenched in blood, was still there. She smiled weakly. Even though she was attacked by the supreme guardian of light and was severely injured, her hands were still firm. She maintained her clasped hands and continued to pray. Ah no. Light Envoy's eyes were filled with fear and tears of panic. Chop. The divine axe chopped down heavily. Not only his body, even his soul was chopped off. Light Envoy's head rolled down, blood and tears splattered all over the ground. The fear before his death remained in his eyes, making him look extremely disgusting. His soul turned into a mass of chaotic energy that was reduced to consciousness. It floated around, and even the instinct to return to its owner's grimoire seemed to have disappeared. The mirror world completely collapsed. At first, it was a little, then, like dominoes that were toppled over. It became bigger and bigger. Once it started, it could not be stopped. Duo, are you in front? Don't run so fast, wait for me." Jiang Ying muttered to herself as if she was in a dream. Her head drooped lower and lower. Even her clasped hands weakly loosened. Chapter 1379. The mirror world shattered, and the ancient passage that was hidden deep inside was discovered. Princess Sisai held the tiger prison divine sword in her left hand, and the sword of fate in her right hand. She slashed down, and the beast tide that was surging out turned into ashes. Yu, sickly beauty, and city lord fallen flowers arrived. They couldn't be bothered to grieve for their comrades, and they cut their palms open, dripping their blood onto the seal of fate in Shui Wuxia's hand. The women gathered all their wisdom and divine power to strengthen the seal of fate, preparing to seal this ancient passage that took the Guardian of Light's 20,000-meter-long body to build. As long as they sealed this ancient passage that could lead directly to Heaven Realm's Radiant Mountain, Tong Tian Tower's Time Corridor, and the ancient God Gate, the dream of the deity temple's heavenly chariot to come here for the destiny showdown would be dashed. The mirror world is only the beginning. Shui Wuxia, who was holding the seal of fate, had a solemn expression. Sisters, as long as we persevere a little longer and seal it, the final victory of this battle will definitely belong to us. Yes. Everyone, including Princess Sisai, agreed in unison. Yu summoned the tsunami goddess envoy, and set off waves after waves of raging waves that swept through the entire ancient passage. Aquamarine also used the deep-sea meteor pearl's power to send the waves back. As for the southern demon king and the others, they quickly turned the seawater into ice. The illusion moon goddess used her limitless divine power to coordinate with Sickly Beauty's runes and divine language to slowly turn the water into an indestructible eternal crystal that was comparable to the world's stone. The goddess of liberty blessed it with the law of freedom. As long as it wasn't their side, they would definitely lose their supreme divine right to pass. The final step was handed over to Shui Wuxia, who possessed the power of extreme cold. She slowly raised the seal of fate that was covered in blood and worshipped it. As long as the eternal crystal was deeply imprinted, a crystal wall that even the gods would sigh over would be born. Other than the child of fate or those bound to his fate, no one would be able to pass through. Blood, life, freedom, and eternal reverence for divine authority. No matter what sacrifice we have to make, we will have no regrets. The seal of destiny in Shui Wuxia's hand resonated with the rest of the destiny divine weapons and emitted billions of divine lights. The divine light connected with the runes on the crystal wall and complemented each other, constructing a brand new law of destiny. The crystal wall slowly faded away. Gradually, it turned into a wall of sighs that even the gods could not pass through and could only sigh helplessly at. The wall of sighs was madly absorbing the godly energy of Shui Wuxia and the others, absorbing their wisdom and elemental laws, and was quickly being formed. Seeing that the wall of sighs was about to be formed, the Guardian of Light who was fighting Yu Yang and Ji Zun went berserk. He swooped down recklessly. The instant the sighing wall was completely formed, he directly rushed into the ancient passage that was filled to the brim. He didn't care if he would be sealed inside. Ah! The Guardian of Light who had rushed into the sighing wall let out a tragic howl. The backlash of destroying the operation of the laws was all inflicted on his body. It was millions of times more painful than being burned by the godly fire. The Guardian of Light's true body was melting, but he persevered and was determined to pass through the ancient passage. He was using his life to pave the way for Tianyu. What benefits did Tianyu give you? Why are you risking your life for him? Yu Yang chased closely behind the Guardian of Light. Get out of the way. The Guardian of Light wielded the Sword of Life. The sword was 1,000 feet long. The Sword of Life brushed past Yu Yang's left rib, almost piercing through his heart. Just like that, carrying the blood of both Ji Zun and Yu Yang, carrying their murderous intent and divine power laws, the sword pierced through the Guardian of Light's true body. The Guardian of Light was also a little stunned by the Sword of Life that pierced through his chest. Even the defense of the divine throne was ineffective? The tip of the sword was retracted. The blood it carried turned into nirvana flame and burned fiercely. Only now did the Guardian of Light understand that there was a problem with Yu Tatan's blood. It couldn't be touched easily, and his divine power couldn't disperse it at all. He could only watch as it burned in his chest. This damned nirvana flame. Normally, it would be enough to choke him, but now that it was mixed inside and outside, it was really... He didn't know that the power would soar by 100 times with Yu Yang's blood and Ji Zun's blood. Ji Zun's sword actually came from her heart, and it was premeditated. Previously, there was no good opportunity to use it. Now that the Guardian of Light was determined to destroy the formation of the sighing wall and was restrained by the laws, it was a heaven-sent opportunity. Cord of Life, Rainbow Trio. Ji Zun exploded. The slippery enemy that she couldn't hit before had now delivered himself to her. With such a favorable position, how could she not fight? She stretched her hands outwards, and the light on her body turned into hundreds of millions of light weapons. Be it swords, spears, halberds, or arrows, every divine light weapon was stained with her blood. Using her blood as a guide, they chased after the guardian of light in front of her like a tidal wave. Under such a terrifying big move, even the unkillable Yu Yang was so scared that he hurriedly dodged, afraid that he would be hit even the slightest bit. The guardian of light groaned inwardly. He, who was using all his strength to break the barrier, had nowhere to hide. If he left, he would be safe. But the destruction of the sighing wall would be in vain. Protect! The guardian of light clenched his teeth and persevered with all his might. The 40,000-meter tall divine body that was originally fighting at the edge of the Dead Sea disappeared in an instant, and drilled out from the divine throne behind the guardian of light. He opened his giant palm and turned it into a shield to block. Break for me! Jizun's bright eyes were like lightning. Her originally opened hands quickly clasped together. In an instant, the hundreds of millions of light weapons merged into one, directly penetrating the 40,000-meter tall divine body that had turned into a shield. Even the divine skull behind the giant palm was penetrated. The guardian of light was also a super ruthless person. When he turned back and realized that the divine body was useless in blocking, he simply transformed his real body into the form of the golden ancient slaughterer. He crazily opened his arms, preparing to take the attack head-on. At the same time, the 40,000-meter tall divine body also prepared to counterattack. He unleashed the greatest power of the light god race, the ultimate light of judgment, which had been regarded as a forbidden secret move since its creation, at Yu Yang and Jizun, intending to fight to the death with the enemy. If it was in a wide space, this move might be useless. However, in this flat ancient passage, the only narrow passage that the sighing wall penetrated, this finger would have nowhere to hide. It would definitely unleash its ultimate power. Damn it! Yu Yang, who had dodged to the side because of Jizun's big move, was furious. He rushed forward and wanted to block it for Jizun. However, Jizun did not hesitate and sent Yu Yang flying with a palm strike. Facing the enemy's ultimate light of judgment, she did not dodge at all. Instead, she took the initiative to face the enemy's fatal attack head-on. She did not let its power leak to Yu Yang in the slightest. Her tightly clenched jade-like fingers suddenly popped up one by one. They curved like the moon and rotated as if playing a musical instrument. A kind of radiance of life, shaped like a rainbow, rose above her head. It was not inferior to the blazing ultimate light of judgment. The hundreds of millions of light weapons were like spears that nailed the guardian of light, who had turned into the golden ancient slaughterer, to the sighing wall. The moment the ultimate light of judgment hit Jizun, the rainbow of life passed through the enemy's divine light and moved forward without any hindrance. It pushed forward layer by layer and spread towards the guardian of light with increasing intensity. Just one wave of the rainbow of life had already melted the skin and flesh of the guardian of light, who had turned into the golden ancient slaughterer, and broken its bones. However, there were 3 waves of this rainbow. Each wave was stronger than the last. After withstanding the second wave, the guardian of light screamed in unbearable pain. His original form as the golden ancient slaughterer had already collapsed. His brain juice flowed out, his skin and flesh turned into water and steam. Even the soul within it suffered the impact of God's punishment, causing the guardian of light to be in so much pain that he wanted to die. When the third wave arrived, even the divine throne was distorted. The guardian of light did not melt in the performance of the rainbow of life. On the other side, Jizun, who had been hit by the ultimate light of judgment. She was also sent flying like a kite with a broken string. Yu Yang rushed forward and hugged her while withstanding the impact of the ultimate light of judgment with his back. Blood kept spurting out from his mouth and stained her body. No, why did you do this? I don't need you to sacrifice yourself for me. I am a man. Do you know that I am already a divine sovereign? I have comprehended life, I have comprehended eternity. Why don't you let me protect you? I can protect you. I can protect you. No, no. You are the strongest, I know that you are the strongest in the world. Don't be like this, don't let the enemy defeat you. You are the one and only sovereign in the world, you are stronger than anyone else. You won't let anyone defeat you, you won't fall, right? Answer me, answer me. If I have to sacrifice you in exchange for the victory of the fated battle, then I might as well not want this victory. You know me the best, I also need your encouragement, don't abandon me. Listen, I can't live without you, come back quickly. The current sovereign's face showed an unprecedented weakness. At this moment, she looked like a weak girl. However, Yu Yang would rather not see her gentleness for the rest of his life. Tears flowed out from her eyes uncontrollably. The pain of losing one's lover was more painful than an awl piercing the heart. That kind of feeling could make one go crazy. If he could get her back, he was willing to shed a river of blood or even tears. He didn't care. As long as she could come back and open her eyes again, even if she stared at him angrily, he would be satisfied. He was willing to give up everything for her. In front of him, the honorable guardian of light reformed from the blood and filth. His real body had recovered. However, he was covered in cuts and bruises, from head to toe, there was not a single part of his body that wasn't crippled. There were only a few fingers left, the muscles and bones of his arms were broken, there was a bloody hole in his chest, his heart and lungs were clearly visible, his ribs were broken, and even the divine throne behind him was distorted badly. There was still nirvana flame burning on his body, and his body was constantly collapsing. The honorable guardian of light panted in pain and gritted his teeth. Although the divine throne had a source of divine power, this supply was like a cup of water on a burning cart of firewood. It was impossible to recover from this kind of injury that was close to the origin of life in a short period of time. He took advantage of the fact that Yu Yang was hugging Sovereign and wailing at the top of his lungs, and immediately reacted. He let the half-broken divine body continue to support the passage that was penetrated by the self-sighing wall, and continued to move forward. His expression was as determined as the peerless Emperor Peerless, who carried the divine mountain to fill the sea. The fated battle will definitely happen. The honorable guardian of light used everything he had to penetrate the last inch of the self-sighing wall. Finally, he exhausted his mental strength and fell to the ground powerlessly. He smiled at Yu Yang, who had caught up. Peerless can carry the mountain for you, and Tianyu also has me to open the way for him. Isn't this fair? Just kill me, I'm too tired now. You want to die? Don't even think about it. Yu Yang's face was covered with blood and tears, and his murderous aura was ferocious. I want to seal you in the sighing wall, and let you be imprisoned there forever, unable to come out and suffer the punishment of the gods. You can neither live nor die. If you are the final winner of this fated battle, then I won't object. From afar, a voice as clear as a spring suddenly sounded. Chapter 1380. Tianyu. Yu Yang was filled with rage. If this damned fate had come earlier, then Ji Zun wouldn't have. The rage and killing intent that was about to go out of control caused Yu Yang's fighting spirit to burn to its peak. He forgot about everything else. Now, he only had one thought, and that was to kill the enemy. A shadow walked out from the depths of the ancient passage step by step until it was in front of Yu Yang. This was a middle-aged man filled with charm. His appearance and temperament were impeccable. Even the pickiest person in the world wouldn't be able to find anything wrong with him. Everything about this middle-aged man was in perfect condition. Without comparison, Yu Yang wouldn't be able to expose many of his flaws. But standing in front of him, many flaws immediately surfaced. For example, he was too handsome and didn't have the temperament of a king. For example, his personality was too passionate and not mature enough. For example, His emotions weren't calm and rational enough. There were many flaws. In front of this man that even the gods would sigh for, Yu Yang was still an impulsive and hot-blooded young man. The middle-aged man, who was incomparably perfect and without any flaws, raised his bright eyes that were filled with wisdom. He looked at Yu Yang and a friendly smile appeared on his lips. "You are Titan, you? Not bad, young man. You remind me of my past self. In that youthful and energetic age, I was like you now. I believed that I could create the future with my own hands, obtain everything with unremitting efforts, and protect the entire heaven realm with an unwavering will. Actually, this is how life goes from youth to maturity." "Matured my ass!" Yu Yang was so angry that his hair stood up. He gritted his teeth and stared at his enemy. "I only know that I want to beat you into a pile of sh*t. Your reaction was within my expectations." The flawless middle-aged man smiled. "Tian Yu, just defeat him. Don't kill him. There must be a higher-level protector behind him." Guardian Ji Zun raised his hand and revealed the burning nirvana flame. The perfect middle-aged man who arrived in time was the most mysterious rancor in the entire heaven realm. Deity Hall's supreme heavenly chariot. He possessed all the qualities of a strong and wise person. Not only was he the most outstanding genius in the heaven realm for tens of thousands of years, he was also a madman who had been training crazily for tens of thousands of years. He could endure all the impetuosity in the secular world and was not moved by fame and fortune. He was emotionless and only focused on cultivation in his life. He was never distracted and was not shackled by emotions. He could see through countless temptations and give up countless pleasures. He could comprehend and improve himself in the most unbearable loneliness. He reflected on his shortcomings in the position of the strongest and pushed himself day and night. His will was as firm as the Radiance Mountain. As long as he completed the final step of the Fate Duel, he could advance to his goal of becoming the Holy Supreme Being. From then on, he would transcend the mortal world and enter a whole new realm of life. Such an enemy was standing in front of Yu Yang, an opponent who was about to fight with his life on the line. If Yu Yang was still rational, he would definitely be terrified. But now, he was furious. He was almost out of control. Yu Yang did not think about his own shortcomings, nor did he think about how terrifying the enemy was. There was only one thought in his mind, and that was to beat the enemy to a pulp, beat the shit out of the enemy. "I am very envious of you." Deity's Temple Supreme Being Tian Yu looked at Yu Yang with a friendly gaze. "You don't have to do anything, and you can enjoy everything. Fame, fortune, emotions, and so on, they are all endlessly provided in your life. The heavens have gifted you with the world's most outstanding comprehension and ability. You don't need to cultivate diligently, you don't need to put in any hard work, and you don't even need to sacrifice a bit. You can have things that countless people dream of but can't. Maybe you don't care about these things at all. For example, you have no intention of saving Heaven-Reaching Tower, and you don't have the intention of becoming its savior, but the heavens still gave you this heavy responsibility. That's right, you are the darling of the heavens. Your luck is something that even the gods of the heaven realm are jealous of. So, I am very envious of you. If possible, I really want to exchange with you." Yu Yang did not speak. His eyes were bloodshot, and his divine power and killing intent were increasing by 1,000,000 times, waiting for the final moment to explode. He did not listen to what the enemy was saying at all. Wholeheartedly, he gathered his strength and prepared to launch the most destructive attack. The deity's Templar's Supreme Tian Yu smiled. "It is because you have not experienced any setbacks that you have lost yourself. Titan Yu, who is blessed by the heavens, perhaps you don't know, but if you don't work hard to get what you want, it will always be an illusion. I am very happy that the other half of the destined battle is you, and not the peerless Emperor Wu Shuang, and definitely not the Conquest Queen Fei Wenli." Yu Yang lowered his head and clenched his fists in front of him. Because of his anger, countless nirvana flames started burning on his body. In the end, they spurted towards the sky, forming a magnificent nirvana flame pillar. Has he completely lost his mind? This mentality is too weak. The deity's Templar's Supreme Tian Yu shook his head. Young people are like this. Master. Zizai Tian had also arrived. He and the other two golden gods knelt respectfully behind Tian Yu. The deity's Templar's Supreme Tian Yu did not turn back to look at them. He only waved his hand. Kill all of Titan Yu's women. I want to give this young man the most sincere advice. Being trapped by love is the biggest obstacle to cultivation. In the future, when he grows up, I believe he will be grateful for today's setback. Zizai Tian and his two companions hurriedly obeyed. Yes. Behind Yu Yang, Shui Wuxia and Princess Sisai had already arrived. They looked at each other and nodded tacitly. Shui Wuxia stepped out from the crowd and stood beside Yu Yang. She looked at the enemies in front of her calmly. Do I need to say welcome? Uncles who are like pretentious criminals. Young lady, you are very outstanding. The deity's Templar's Supreme Tian Yu stopped Zizai Tian and the others from getting angry. He did not feel that his dignity had been damaged. Instead, he looked at Shui Wuxia humorously and nodded lightly. I understand the emotions of humans. Happiness, anger, sorrow, and joy. Humans live for this. If they lose even a little bit of it, they will feel so much pain that they would rather die. But, to be honest, this is actually a very laughable and very fragile thing. Take human love for example. When they make vows of undying love, they are willing to exchange the whole world for it. Love is above life and death, above freedom, and above everything else. But in the blink of an eye, this strong emotion of being willing to sacrifice or even die for the other party without any hesitation will deteriorate to the point where they will turn hostile and hate the other party to the bone. It is still fine when there is no manipulation. Some people can persist for a long time, a few years, a dozen years, or even longer. But if an expert uses coercion or ability to manipulate, what will happen? Love will turn into hatred in a second? Shui Wuxia smiled. If there is a need, it can become faster. The deity's Templar's Supreme Tian Yu nodded. This is the emotions of humans. Even the slightest interference will turn it into a joke. Of course, not interfering with it is also a joke. From a certain point of view, emotions are indeed a very boring thing. Shui Wuxia agreed, but then she shook her head. Humans are a very boring life. If they don't do some boring things, they can't be considered as humans. I can understand the reason why you, as a high and mighty God-level expert, despise and ridicule the weak emotions of humans, and I can also feel your sense of superiority. But what does this mean? I can only say that you don't understand these things. Children have their own childish fun when they play house, and humans also have their own fun when they love life and hate death. You don't understand, and you don't have the right to criticize and make thoughtless remarks here. This is what I want to say to you self-righteous God-level expert. Clap, clap, clap. Princess Sisai and the others applauded excitedly. It was really not easy to make this pompous Supreme Tian Yu admit defeat. Now that they had vented their anger, they were extremely happy. The deity's Templar's Supreme Tian Yu was slightly startled, but he quickly reacted. The expression on his face didn't change, and he still nodded with self-restraint. Maybe you are right, clever little girl. Next, how will you use your emotions to resist the upcoming attack? Sisters of one heart? Rather die than submit? Shui Wuxia made a gesture as if she was deep in thought. Maybe I need to daydream like an idiot. As soon as she said this, City Mistress Fallen Flowers and the others, who were listening quietly behind, burst into laughter again. This atmosphere didn't seem like a duel. It was more like a debate. Dream. The deity's Templar's Supreme Tian Yu frowned when he heard this. The word he hated to hear the most was dream. There are many kinds of dreams. Shui Wuxia stretched out her slender jade-like hand and gently pressed it on the back of Yu Yang's heart. With her purest divine power and will, she slowly calmed Yu Yang's irrepressible violence and anger. There is a kind of dream where you go the wrong way. When the dreamer thinks that he has gone the right way and reached his destination, who would have thought that he would wake up and find that he was still in the same place? Tell me, isn't this kind of dream very ridiculous? What? The face of the deity's Templar's Supreme Tian Yu finally changed. His anger shot out from his eyes like lightning, and the divine power that his body inadvertently emitted was enough to flatten thousands of mountains. Before you wake up from your dream, I will tell you another truth. Xue Wuxia's smile was also full of friendliness, but in the eyes of the enemy, it became an unbearable mockery. Maybe you look down on him, and think that he is a lucky person, a fool favored by the heavens, who did not put in the slightest effort and got everything easily. But the truth is that what he has put in is actually no less than what you have. Moreover, he does not have the persistence that you have in pursuing at all costs. Haven't you heard of the phrase, to be content with nothing to ask for? So, do you think that the heavens are blind to favor him like this? The deity's Templar's Supreme Tian, you may or may not have heard the last words of Xue Wuxia, but he had already woken up from his dream. He was still at the entrance of the Times Square. Just as he took a step out, looking back, he saw Queen Vivian Li's cold and contemptuous gaze. Night dream. The deity's Templar's Supreme Tian, you could no longer suppress the anger in his heart. He gritted his teeth and squeezed out a vicious curse. You bitch! Chapter 1381. Eternal Light, protect me for life. The Honorable Light Guardian no longer wished to die. The Honorable Sky Chariot of the Temple was tricked by His Majesty. He tried his best, but only dreamed of rushing to the Libra world. This made the Honorable Light Guardian speechless. However, it was reasonable for the Tong Tian Tower's powerhouses to resist. After all, this was a battle of fate that involved all races and even the entire world. The loser would lose everything, so they couldn't blame others for trying their best to stop it. The Guardian of Light, who was severely injured, was willing to give up due to the excruciating pain he had suffered just now. He hoped to be like the peerless Emperor Wu Shuang and have a spectacular battle before going to sleep peacefully. But now, he had no choice but to give up on this idea and pull himself together. If he fell, and the Guardian of the Dead Sea wasn't here, then Titan you might really have a chance to turn things around. To stop him from moving the mountains and filling the seas, to stop the prophecy from happening. Before Sky Chariot officially arrived, he had to stay alive. He had to hold on. Freedom Sky, your opponents are those little girls. I hope you don't underestimate them, they are very troublesome enemies. The Honorable Light Guardian now knew that these girls were actually Titan Yu's most important helpers. Their combined strength was no less than his. Yes. Freedom Sky and the others really came, unlike Lord Sky Chariot who was trapped in an endless dream. Retreat into the crystal wall. Xue Wuxia calmly made a decision. Although Sky Chariot hadn't arrived yet, his three subordinates from Freedom Sky weren't easy to deal with either. If they weren't careful, they might be in danger of being annihilated. The three of them gave Xue Wuxia a feeling that they were far more dangerous than the Dead Sea Fallen God. Regardless of divine power or realm, Freedom Sky and the others far surpassed them. As Xue Wuxia retreated, Yu Yang lost his energy. He could no longer suppress the anger that had accumulated in his heart. Howl, 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 howl! He roared uncontrollably. A giant formed from nirvana flames erupted behind him, rising to a height of 1,000 meters. At its peak, the nirvana giant quickly condensed and formed a brand new nirvana battle armor, firmly wrapping around Yu Yang's body. The original nirvana flame pillar had turned into a nirvana long halberd and was stabbed in front of him. Yu Yang's eyes didn't have a trace of rationality. He was like a berserk heavenly demon, endlessly destroying his divine power. Under his side, two blood-red nirvana wings slowly extended out. It could expand infinitely. Ultimate judgment. The radiant guardian sovereign was startled. This Titan Yu was even more terrifying when he lost his mind. Not only did his strength skyrocket by 100 times, he even had the nirvana flame turning into an armor to protect his body. His divine weapon was forged by the heavens, and his might was enough to dominate the heavens and earth. What should he do? Ordinary attacks were completely useless. Just the defense of the Nirvana battle armor could be ignored. Not to mention, the Berserk Titan Yu was not afraid of attacks at all. Therefore, the Radiant Guardian Eminence immediately used the ultimate light of judgment, the ultimate forbidden technique of the Radiant clan. Long ago, when he was cultivating as a child, his master had warned him that it was best not to use such a forbidden secret skill. This was because every time it was used, the sacred mountain of light would accumulate a sin. A forbidden secret skill that went against the way of nature was destined to be spurned by all the ancient rules, no matter in the heavens or on the earth. Even if this backlash would not happen to the user, the sacred mountain of light, which was the origin of the Radiant clan, would definitely be cursed. However, there was one time when his master made an exception and used the ultimate light of judgment, which he was unwilling to use in his entire life, in order to save his senior and junior brothers. After the battle ended, he remembered that there wasn't any joy on his master's face. Instead, he had a face full of sorrow. He said that this might be the beginning of the fall of the Radiant clan. In the end, the senior and junior brothers who didn't think much of it discovered their master at the peak of the sacred mountain of light, who had cut off the light origin and burned his own divine power to give up his life in order to bear the sin. Only then did they understand why this kind of destruction was called a taboo. It was also at that time that the senior and junior brothers walked on the path of separation. Some people thought that they should continue to use this kind of destructive power to fight against the Tong Tian Tower and revive the sacred mountain. However, there were also people who thought that they should respect their master's dying wish and completely abandon this kind of destructive power. They should use their own strength to restore the glory of the sacred mountain. The senior and junior brothers who had fallen out with each other due to the quarrel all left. Only the Guardian of Light was left to guard the sacred mountain. He usually didn't use it, but at the most critical moment, he would use it without hesitation, just like how his master had saved him. In the end, he stayed behind alone. After a long period of arduous cultivation, he obtained the recognition of the sacred mountain's origin and rules. After tens of thousands of years, he became the Guardian of Light. Ultimate light of judgment! The Guardian of Light shouted and once again used this kind of destructive taboo power. He didn't have a second choice now. In order to defeat the enemy, he could only use the destructive taboo power. Perhaps, after the fateful confrontation, he would also have to cut off his origin power like his master, burn himself, and bear the sin to escape. However, before that, he must continue to use this taboo power and use this most powerful secret technique to kill the enemy. The woman who used the Sword of Life and knew how to attack the enemy with ripples from the life origin had also fallen under this taboo secret technique. The current Titan Yu was no exception. Fall down. When the heavenly chariot arrived, he only needed to wave his hand and defeat an opponent who was on the verge of death. In any case, this fateful confrontation was never an equal battle. Howl, 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 howl. The Berserk Yu Yang didn't know how to dodge anymore. He directly charged towards the enemy. Facing this ultimate judgment light that could destroy everything in the world, Yu Yang madly charged. Just as his face was about to collide with the light pillar, between Yu Yang's eyebrows, a mystical divine artifact appeared. A bead. This was the first divine tool that Yu Yang had comprehended and created in his life. The creation god bead. Like a whale swallowing water, the tiny creation god bead, under the Guardian of Light's incredulous gaze, swallowed up the ultimate light of judgment, leaving not a single drop behind. The berserk Yu Yang didn't notice this at all. This wasn't controlled by his will at all, but by the creation god bead's instinct to protect its master. Yu Yang charged in front of the Guardian of Light, leaving a long trail of flames behind him. He raised his burning fist and punched the Guardian of Light's face with unstoppable force. The power of this punch was far beyond his estimation. It was also far beyond what he could bear. The divine throne that shared the damage for its master let out a series of roars, and the entire wheel of light trembled. Even though the divine throne shared the majority of the damage, the Guardian of Light's face, which had never been broken by anyone for tens of thousands of years, was instantly smashed into pieces. His bones and flesh were shattered, and golden divine blood splattered all over the sky. The Guardian of Light was thrown 10,000 meters away. His legs, which were forcefully supporting him on the ground, plowed 2 deep and long trails in the ancient passage. Not only the hard stone, but even the space there was also turned into powder. Return /. The Guardian of Light, who had half of his face smashed, immediately counterattacked Yu Yang. He raised his right leg, preparing to counterattack with a final radiance / that could ignore space. Just as his right leg slashed down, Yu Yang, who was 10,000 meters away, arrived. Along the way, he brutally smashed through the saber radiance created by the divine power / and directly crashed into the Guardian of Light's body like a wild beast. Yu Yang lifted his right leg, which couldn't land in time, on his shoulder. Then, he roared like a thunder, lifted the Guardian of Light's body with both hands, and heavily smashed it down with the force of a thunderbolt. This action looked very comical, because the Guardian of Light's true body was 8 meters tall. When Yu Yang lifted him up, he was less than 3 meters away from the ground. But the power of this smash was extraordinarily terrifying. The Guardian of Light couldn't bear the pain of his broken bones and tendons, and let out an unusually tragic howl. His reaction was extremely fast. Amidst the extreme pain, he grabbed Yu Yang's waist and threw him backwards. At the same time, he gathered his hands, preparing to use the forbidden ultimate move, Ultimate Light of Judgment, again. There was no need to doubt the destructive power of the Ultimate Light of Judgment. Titan Yu was fine just now because he had a God Pearl to replace it. But it was impossible for him to have a second God Pearl to bear the second trial for him. Forbidden power, Master was right, it was indeed a fatal temptation. As long as you used it once, you couldn't help but use it a second time, a third time, but, no matter if you used it 100 times or 1,000 times, as long as you could defeat the enemy and let Tian Yu win this fated battle, everything would be worth it. Die, Titan Yu. You will only be a loser. Tong Tian Tower will not be redeemed because of your struggle, because the one who controls the forbidden power, the one who controls the path of life and death, is the Light Clan of our heaven realm. Howl, howl, howl. Yu Yang, who was thrown 10,000 meters away, pounced in front of the Guardian of Light faster than he flew. His fist accurately hit the enemy's face. At the same time, he used his chest to completely withstand the enemy's ultimate move, forcefully taking on this forbidden light that could even destroy gods. Hoo, it's a pity, Titan Yu. You were born at the wrong time, just like peerless Emperor Wu Shuang. Seeing that the ultimate light of judgment had sent his opponent flying, the Guardian of Light heaved a sigh of relief. Luckily, this brat didn't have a second God Pearl to offset it, or else it would really be troublesome. As the other side of the fated battle, it was unlikely that Titan Yu would die here, but he would definitely be heavily injured and on the verge of death. Although Tian Yu had not arrived, the battle had already ended. That's right, everything had ended. What he could do for the Light Clan, what he could do for them, was only this much. Master, after this fated battle is over, I also want to pursue you. Let's sleep in the eternal sleep, heavenly kingdom. Because carrying this kind of responsibility was too tiring. It was also too bitter. In the future, he would leave it to the next Guardian of Light. As for who he was and how he would protect the bright light mountain, he didn't want to care anymore. Just when the Guardian of Light was about to relax, a blurry figure appeared in front of him. He walked forward step by step, and when the Guardian of Light could see clearly, the figure raised his hand and pierced the Nirvana long halberd through the Guardian of Light's chest, stabbing the tip of the halberd. It was Yu Yang. His Nirvana battle armor was broken everywhere, but it was continuously recovering in the Nirvana flame. Even the injuries on his body were quickly healed. Looking at the killing intent that was even more berserk than the sky demons, the Guardian of the Light Sovereign couldn't help but shiver. Titan Yu possessed an undying body. Under the support of the Nirvana's flames, even the ultimate judgment light couldn't kill him. Could he really be defeated? Even if Tian Yu came, could he really defeat this Yu clan third young master who couldn't be killed no matter what? Would the fated battle really go as smoothly as planned? This was the first time the Guardian of Light had such a question in his heart. Kill. This was the only thought in Yu Yang's mind. In his berserk state, other than completely annihilating the enemy in front of him and sealing his soul into the sighing wall for eternity, he would let this enemy suffer divine punishment and feel endless regret. Perhaps only then would he be able to slightly vent the anger in his heart. Can't I just die grandly like peerless time? The Guardian of Light laughed bitterly and immediately regained his fighting spirit. I can't die yet. I am the Guardian of Light. The Light Clan still needs my protection. So I must continue to fight. Come, Titan Yu. Let's see who will fall first. Chapter 1382. The entrance of the Times Square was covered with blood. Blood, like dye, was smeared all over the space at the entrance of the square. Queen Vivian Li, who had once swept across the entire heaven realm and looked down on all living beings, had never fallen on the battlefield. At this moment, she had to use the sword in her hand to support her severely injured body. Only her eyes were still as cold as ever. When Tian Yu looked at her, a kind of mockery was revealed without any concealment. Her enemies, the three shadows, the three super-powerful seniors who had escaped from Radiance Mountain's sealed god prison, stood in front of Tian Yu in different postures. In order to stop the Conquest Queen's ruthless killing, they all paid a heavy price. But they also succeeded in knocking her to the ground. The first time, after Queen Vivian Li grew up and became the Conquest Queen, the Heaven Realm's martial artists successfully knocked her to the ground for the first time, and for the first time, the stubborn war goddess was powerless to wield the divine weapon in her hand. The shadow on the right was the most seriously injured. He was on the verge of death, but his body was not weak at all. On the contrary, there was a kind of strange light flashing, like the sun rising from the east, burning his divine power to his heart's content. In the face of Tian Yu's anger, his face was the calmest, without any regret or resentment. On the contrary, he shook his head slightly at Tian Yu, with a tolerant smile like an elder seeing a child who had made a mistake. War has always been like this. No matter whether we win or lose, we must pay a huge price. Our sacrifice is a matter of course, and this is also the ending I longed for. For many years I thought of death, but it was impossible. Only now did I really obtain this right. For me, this is the best reward and the long-awaited release in my life. Must it be like this? Tian Yu's eyes were filled with reluctance. Is this the price needed to reach the top? This degree of sacrifice may just be the beginning. The shadow on the right shook his head. However, the other person has not paid any price at all, and he is also qualified to reach the top. This is not fair. The person Tian Yu was referring to was Yu Yang. He felt that Yu Yang was not worthy to be his opponent. At least, he did not pay 1/10,000th of his effort. Since we are opponents, and this is a predestined confrontation, the price must be equal. The shadow on the right sighed softly. There are many forms of price. There was one person who built many palaces on the mountain and at the foot of the mountain. They were magnificent and had the style of a king. He paid. As for the other person, all he did was build a tower on the ground. He also put in a lot of effort. You can't say that the beautiful palace on the mountain is definitely taller than the tower on the ground, and you can't say that the numerous temporary imperial residences will definitely surpass the unique tower. Have all these years of hard work in vain? Tianyu unconsciously clenched his fist. Some people only need to walk the path to the top of the mountain once to enjoy the most beautiful scenery. Some people needed to walk 100 or even 1,000 times before they could determine what the most beautiful scenery was. The results of both were the same. Those who had walked 100 times did not need to be jealous of those who had only walked once. As long as the final result was right, there would be no problem. Perhaps the person who has only walked through it once will instead envy the person who has walked through it 100 times. It's just that others don't know about it, the shadow on the right comforted. Tianyu understood this logic, but it was still difficult for him to untie the knot in his heart. Titan Yu was an opponent that made people go crazy. Whether it was talent, comprehension, or luck, this brat could make all the competitors in the world vomit blood. Even someone as strong as Tianyu was no exception. As the supreme master of the Radiance Mountain, Tianyu believed that he controlled and possessed the best things in the world, and he was born with the strongest and most refined talent in the world. Whether it was comprehension, willpower, or hard work, he was thousands of times better than others. However, even so, he had no choice but to watch such a junior, relying on his abnormal growth speed and heaven-defying luck, stand on the same level as him in the competition, stand on the opposite side of him, and carry out a predestined battle together. This kind of inconceivable matter, if it was a few years ago, it would simply be a contemptuous joke. Even Titan Yu himself might not have imagined that this kind of glory would belong to him. This kind of destined confrontation was another starting point of his life. But fate had arranged it this way, and fate had chosen it this way. It was too unfair. Tens of thousands of years of hard work, tens of thousands of years of effort, as if it were a day's work. Tianyu really couldn't understand why this was? Why did his own hard work not obtain recognition, but instead his opponent so easily obtain the qualification? He had wisdom and talent that was not inferior to anyone, and he also had support that surpassed everyone else. Adding on his hard work that no one else could match, with such conditions and effort, he could not even compare to an insignificant human from the lower realm. Why? The shadow in the middle sat cross-legged on the ground. His body was the most heavily injured. There were transparent holes everywhere, and his internal organs were almost crushed by Fei Wenli's divine weapon. But he was much better than the shadow on the right, at least for the time being. His life was not in danger. His attitude was completely different from his companions. He was very strict, even if he was facing the future supreme divine Tianyu. Can't understand? This is only because of your own reason. As long as there is something you can't understand, you are still lacking. Your enemy, your competitor, why don't they feel that it is unfair? The enemy he needs to face is you, the supreme master of the Radiance Mountain, an enemy who has overwhelming strength in every aspect. Why doesn't he feel that it is unfair? Why doesn't he complain? Why does he still work hard in this kind of decisive battle, knowing that the result is certain to be defeat? This is where you are not as good as him. You are stronger than him, and you put in more effort than him, but it does not mean that you are perfect enough to directly ascend to the realm of the Supreme Divine. Your biggest enemy is actually yourself. Your opponent is someone who can defeat himself, and you, with 10,000 years of effort, have not reached this realm. You should be ashamed. This is also the biggest difference between you and him. Is that so? Tianyu's eyes flashed with a hint of understanding. So the biggest enemy has always been myself. You have actually already defeated yourself, but you still need to surpass yourself. The divine armament old man also nodded gently. Surpass? Tian Yu felt that he was being sublimated in all aspects. Abandon all the things that you rely on, those are all obstacles to ascending to the supreme divine. The shadow in the middle was as majestic as a mountain. If you can put yourself in the same position as your opponent, or even think of yourself as him, and defeat yourself, you will be the final winner of this fateful battle. A battle of fate wasn't a child's play or a farce. This was the most serious, rigorous, and cruel duel. One had to pay the price and sacrifice everything in order to obtain victory. Otherwise, on what basis would one be able to stand together with those divine exalts with boundless virtue? How can you transcend the rules of this heavenly realm? How can you obtain the recognition of the ancient will and the higher beings? Time is meaningless. The real meaning of hard work is also the change of the heart, the change of the realm. Is the size of power the condition to determine the supreme divine? If that is the case, we old guys would have long been the supreme divine. That's right. The shadow on the left, who was lying lazily on the ground, his body stained with blood but not many wounds, also agreed. We did not break your dream because we hoped that you could walk out of it yourself. We old guys can sacrifice everything for you, but we cannot push you forward, we cannot push you to the supreme divine. You need to change yourself. Your own path is the most correct one and the most successful one. I understand, I'm starting to understand. The light in Tian Yu's eyes kept flashing. He felt that he had benefited greatly from the enlightenment of his seniors. You are the only one qualified to participate in the fateful battle. Do not be discouraged, do not be angry. You are only one step away. As long as you completely defeat yourself, you can defeat your opponent and win. The shadow on the right comforted him gently. Your power is enough, and your state of mind is close to perfection. Now it is a question of how to use it to prove yourself. Yes. Deities Templars Supreme Tian Yu lowered his head, as steady as a mountain, and replied in an unshakable manner. Whether it was his state of mind or his divine power, the laws, talent, and everything else in his body, all changed qualitatively under this patient enlightenment. His anger, resentment, and the injustice in his heart had disappeared without a trace. For a moment, he felt that the sky was clear, and the whole world seemed to have undergone a complete change. The state of mind of the heavenly chariot returned to calmness and steadiness, which was even better than the supreme state of mind of the Lord of the Light Mountain when he took over as the Lord of the Light Mountain. The divine light emitted from his body was more reserved and more solid. At first glance, he looked like an ordinary sage in the mortal world. He no longer had the majestic and supreme aura of a king. Although he did not have the time to verify it, Tian Yu felt that he was now truly perfect, truly worthy of his extraordinary talent, and truly worthy of the tens of thousands of years of careful guidance from his seniors. Like a person who was suddenly awakened from a deep sleep, Tian Yu bowed deeply to his seniors. Then to the old divine armament sitting alone in the corner of the entrance of the square. He nodded to show his respect. Then, he strode forward. There were no longer any dreams or other distracting thoughts that could hinder him from moving forward. From this moment onwards, he was equivalent to an eternal mountain of light, indomitable between heaven and earth. The only one who could control his fate was himself. After taking a few steps, he suddenly turned around and bowed sincerely to Empress Fei Wenli. Even though we are opponents, it is Tian Yu's honor to be able to know you. No matter where we stand, I feel that my life has become more exciting because of your appearance, and because of the existence of strong enemies like you, I will not be lonely. Goodbye. Queen Vivian Li did not have much to say to him. She had already given him a lot of face by saying this. Goodbye. Tian Yu nodded and continued to stride forward. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the depths of the time corridor. When Tian Yu had gone far away, Queen Vivian Li, who had been supporting herself with her sword, straightened her back again. Her killing intent once again filled the entire battlefield. The fire of her life that was almost extinguished rose again and turned into a raging flame. The three shadows looked at each other and shook their heads with a bitter smile. What could they do to such an unconquerable enemy? Although this was the ending that they had chosen, they could not imagine the fate of dying at the feet of the Queen of Conquest. It was not until after the fight that they realized that after leaving the Radiance Mountain, the death penalty was not the backlash and judgment of the ancient law, but the death penalty of the Serpent Demon Queen of the Demon Abyss clan of the Tong Tian Tower. The killing power of the Queen of Conquest had arrived earlier than the judgment of the ancient law. She had seized the opportunity to slash fate under her blade. The shadow on the right sighed softly. Although I didn't see it with my own eyes, I have no regrets in being able to help the future Divine Supreme reach the top. Fei Wenli sneered. You said Tianyu? What a joke, he will never be able to win. The three shadows looked at her strangely. She had seen the improvement of Tianyu's state of mind and the qualitative change in the power of his godhead. How could he still say such words? The truth, I will tell you the second before you die. Queen Vivian Li raised the divine weapon in her hand, her fighting spirit soaring. I said that my path to the heavens will be paved over your corpses. Only I, Fei Wenli, am qualified to say that I will help the Divine Supreme reach the top. Old farts, your time has passed. The only thing you need to do and can do now is to sleep forever. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.